If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we from command with my great friend, our CIA in-house specialist, Jeff MD, and Brandy Nance is back with us after a week off, and it's great to see him back. We've got some interesting stuff for you guys tonight. We're gonna do the Command 11 sit rep, and then we're gonna get into the Minnesota bullshit that's happening. There's a lot to unpack. There's been a lot of information out, and we're going to go through some of that. I'll be posting links into the live chat because there's a lot of stuff we can't read through because there's a lot of information, and you can pick up from that when you get a chance. Chris will be back tomorrow. We'll pick up with the conflicted question and the hero of the day again tomorrow when Chris is back. Let's get our pitches in for our great sponsors, Carnival. The code that we use for all of our friends is Eat Meat, and for Wasatch Wagyu, the code is ST20. Great products, great friends, and if you have it, you've all heard Chris talk about the dill pickle jerky, and he's just crazy about it. So if Chris is crazy about it, it's got to be really good stuff. So if you get a chance, please pick some up. I'm going to do the pitch for the Element community. Before I do that, if you're not a Survival Dispatch Guardian, I would highly recommend, with what's going on right now, that everyone sign up and become a Survival Dispatch Guardian. $7.99 a month, $79.99 a year. That gives you 2 months for free. You get access to our private and secure community where there is a piss load of intelligence being shared. We've got people all over the United States and some people in Europe, actually, that are part of our Guardian community. You'll get a lot of intelligence, a lot of conversation, a lot of things clarified in that community. So that's one big advantage. The second big advantage, and the biggest thing you should sign up for, the biggest reason you should sign up for, is the Survival Dispatch emergency notifications, what we call the SDEN system. SDEN is our way of keeping you informed of what is happening around the U.S. If there is a natural disaster, if there is a terrorist attack, SDEN is a system that runs not only on your signal chat, which is what we're running right now, but we're about to switch over, and I'll get into that in a second. But it also runs on your mobile. It also runs on, if you have the POClink radios that we were raving about 2 months back. You'll also get a message there. It is real-time information. It is coming from the ground assets, and it's something that you will get a lot of information while it's happening. We were using it, I think, while the Minnesota riots were going on. The SDN network was active, and we were sending out information on what was happening in Minnesota. It's survivaldispatch.news. Head on over, sign up. $7.99 a month, $79.99 a year. We've always been talking about the signal communities that we have. We are the first organization that is running podcasts that has a community as active as we do. We are switching over to what is known as Element. Element is another secure communication system. We've set up our own community on our own servers, so there's no chance of anyone knocking us off, anyone deplatforming us, anyone being able to hack into our system. So you're completely secure. and it is a live system that we run from Survival Dispatch. So we don't have to worry about what anybody in the big tech world might want to do and try and knock us off, because we've all been through deplatforming during Charlie 19. And that's the fear we have, because the kind of information we put out, Chris has seen it over. Chris and Jason and Ro have seen over the past few days, while the Element network of ours was under attack from DDoS attacks. We've been seeing it at Command 11 for the past month. We've been under DDoS attacks. Why a lot of you have seen critical error on our websites when you try and access it. We're literally right over the X, and everyone who knows that we're over the X is trying to get us off off of the network as quick as much as they can. So we cannot tell you what's happening and why it's happening. So we're in the process of switching over to Element. The onboarding team, which is Jason and Ro, they're signing people up. They're moving people over from Signal to Element. We'll be shutting down Signal communities over the next week when Chris comes back. You get an invite if you are already in our Signal network. My tongue is tying up on a number of words. If you're already on our Signal network, you'll get an invite from either Ro or Jason that will move you over onto our Element network. Please follow the instructions. Jason and Ro worked very hard to put together a proper instruction list, and we will get you over, and then we'll completely switch over to Element. If you have any questions when you're switching over, Jason and Ro are very active in helping out with answering questions. So if you have any problems, please let them know, and they will walk you through it. Oh, that's a mouthful. So let's roll into the Command 11 sit rep. We're going to talk about the massive winter storm that's hit parts of the U.S. Before we came on air, I was asking Randy and Jeff about how the weather was on their side. From what we've heard, the kind of conditions in the U.S. has caused massive panic. We've gotten reports that there have been hypothermia deaths in Texas and in Louisiana. There are still 185 million people that are under severe weather alerts. Over 1 million homes are without electricity. 12,000 flights have been canceled. There have been hundreds of crashes on the roads. Schools have been shut down. NBA games have been postponed, and the government stands at a standstill because of the stack of snow that's fallen over the past 24 hours. I almost want to say it this way: is that you're getting a taste now of what it's going to look like at 9/11 2.0, with electricity gone, store shelves empty, no communication. No way to get in contact, and we understand the next 5, 6, 7 days, this storm is going to keep rolling through. So please be careful. We don't know how many cities or how many states it's going to hit, and with all the rioting going on and all the rioting planned, just be careful while you're out there. Jeff, how's the weather out in Arizona?
Actually, it's horrible. It's only like 65 degrees. Overnight low was like in the 40s. I almost had to think about covering some of my plants, but I didn't. I have a shit ton of grapefruits on my grapefruit tree. So if anyone wants free grapefruit, give me a buzz.
Wow, we've got 39 right now, 37 right now in Islamabad. So it's quite cold. I think our high today was 50. It's cold as shit on our side of the world. Randy, how's the weather over there? Because we've heard about a lot of snow falling in Texas.
Well, I think most of ours will sleep the first day or two. You know, we did get some snow on Sunday. You could tell because it was floating, right? There's a difference between sleet. The sleet that was falling was like granule sand size. It was tiny little bitty sleet. But a lot of it fell several inches. And then we had snow, and that floated, and there were bigger flakes, but we got a lot less of it. It's been really cold. Yesterday, I think it was 11. I'm not even sure, maybe 15 was the high. So I was telling you, I had a mourning dove freeze in the backyard yesterday. But Today, well, right now it's 28, but I think we got up to 30. But it was such a big difference between yesterday and today. I unzipped my jacket when I went outside and walked the dogs. I'm like, man, it's warm out here today. Now, not as warm as Jeff says. Well,
I can't even imagine 30 degrees in Texas.
North Texas does, or historically has always gotten a little bit of more colder weather because, as this was coming in, everybody in the neighborhood, certainly some of the newer people were, oh, what do we do? I'm like, listen, just here in Texas, it's 50-50 whether we're going to get it. When they say it on the news, sometimes we get it, but sometimes we don't. And most time it's not as bad as they said it's going to be. Very rarely is it, or it could be worse. I said, but if you were in Oklahoma, it's 100%. You're getting dumped on. So I would imagine Oklahoma got many inches, but since I've been here in the last, I guess since 2013, it does seem like the weather patterns have changed just a tad, because I remember more of the winter being in October, November, and December when, I was on an ambulance, or even before that, when I was having to go out to the school bus and wait for the bus to go to school, where now it's more in January and February. And it has definitely been a brutal cold this, the last few days. And we were frozen in. No one hardly went out yesterday. I even saw some drone and some helicopter footage from Dallas, Texas, where when you looked, all the freeways were just empty and white, which is rare.
And they're saying it's the rest of the week is snow as well. I mean, all the way from Maine to Texas, they're saying snow. And
well, I don't know if y'all will be able to see that. No, but you see all the pink numbers are in the teens and the 20s. That's the lows for the rest of the week. There's 3 40s in there, 46 and 48 being on Sunday. But yeah, it's going to remain fairly cold. And the parts, like in my neighborhood, depends on which way your home is facing. My house is facing south, but the way the sun comes across from east to west, my backyard stays in the shade and the driveway gets the sun, which I'm thankful for, because the people directly across the street from me, it's the opposite. Their backyard gets the sun, and the big, 5 inches of ice that are on my driveway right now will melt off it when the sun comes out. Theirs is going to be there for could be 2 weeks if they don't get out and break it up, because it's in the shade. And certainly with it staying this cold through this whole week, it's going to be here for a little bit.
Have you been out to any of the grocery stores? I mean, we were getting reports that before the snowstorm came through, all the grocery stores were ravaged. There was nothing on any of the shelves.
So I heard that the same thing. I did not go to any because I already had some. Now I did go to a dollar store so I could get some chips, some peanuts, and some M&Ms, kind of those type of thing. And I was in and out. They still had plenty of stuff there. And I did see somebody a couple people in our neighborhood said they went to the closest HEB and they still had stuff on the shelf. So, but historically, that's what happens. And I think most of Dallas, you're right, that, the Walmarts and the Krogers and all those things were empty within a matter of hours,
Holy shit.
Yeah. Because, it's going to be 2 or 3 days, man. You could starve.
Yeah, you could starve, especially with the electricity going on. I mean, a million homes without electricity in the U.S. How many people ever thought that could happen?
Well, that's probably more than that, because I was telling you about Nashville. It's half in Nashville. It's over 300,000 people in Nashville alone are out of power.
Holy crap.
And it's probably more than that, because they said it's about 50% of the population there in Nashville.
Yeah, a million people without power for a storm of this magnitude is not unusual.
Not for the amount of states it covered. That's a lot of people.
When I was in Atlanta, we had hundreds of thousands out within the city of Atlanta.
Yeah. I think it's a lot more than 1 million, but I think a lot of people aren't reporting the actual number to keep the panic level low.
Well, if you start saying the power companies know who doesn't have power. And they're gonna, and they make money by selling electricity, so they're gonna get that up as fast as humanly possible. Because you think about it, if you have 100,000 people and they're without power every day, they're without power, especially when it's this cold, they'd be running their furnaces and stuff. That power comes losing millions, man.
You're losing money fast.
Yeah, someone
No,
just commented at 21. They think the snowmageddon we had then, it definitely lasted a week. So this one's been bad for a couple of days. We'll have to see if it lives up to that one or not. So far, that one was definitely worse. You know, we were stuck here for a week, literally. I think even my brother, who's in home construction, was off 4 or 5 days that week because couldn't go anywhere.
Well, I'm fortunate that, okay, one, I've got underground utilities, but even if we lost power, I've got a generator, I've got a solar battery, and I've got propane. So I can, if I had to, I could just plug my furnace into my generator and heat my house.
Yeah, but Jeff, you've got CIA training. That's why you've got generators and solar and all of that. You've lived in.
Actually, I have a generator because in 2006, I was in Tidewater, Virginia, and some tropical storm came through, and we lost power on a CIA base. We lost power for 3 days.
Holy shit.
I had to borrow a generator from my brother who lived down the road. And after that, I said, never again. So I went out and bought a generator and have never had to use it since. But I have converted it to propane.
Well, I was going to say, it's not just the CIA. Anybody that's had to work in austere environments where you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. When I was in Afghanistan, all of our power was off of generators that we had. And it was, you bought gasoline on the market, on the economy, filtered it by hand before you put it into the Jenny, because last thing you want is that shit gas cooking your generator.
Yeah.
That's how we functioned.
That's
us
right.
and the military guys downstairs. And you didn't drink the wells, but you didn't drink the water out of the wells because they weren't that deep. So if you brushed your teeth and drank, it was all bottled water. And we ate MREs and you learn how not to get sick.
Yeah. That was the first. It was the first lesson I learned when I came to Pakistan, was how not to get sick.
Yeah, and I got sick one time in Afghanistan because I had to eat with some local tribe, and it was for political reasons, and we're all eating with our hands. The food was hotter than hell. I already thought, okay, I won't get sick because this stuff's like the temperature of molten lead. But I got sick. Not bad, but I did get sick.
No, on this side of the world, it's heavy spices. I remember when I first came here, the spices were so heavy. I mean, the chilies and all of that were so heavy that I had a bad stomach, I think, for the first 2 months I was in Pakistan, trying going, what the hell? How am I going to eat in this damn country?
No, when I say hot, I mean temperature hot, not spice hot. Okay. I mean, you burned your fingers picking it up. But we had a military guy, an army guy downstairs, young, stupid, went and ate on the economy one day.
Oh,
he was in bed for a week, had to give him IVs. It was coming out every orifice.
Yep. I bet he lost 20 pounds over that.
Yeah, he did. He was throwing that up. You name it. They were just squeezing the IV bags into that guy. And we had a younger girl who was from a civil affairs unit, same thing. And they didn't have any real good medics over there. So they sent her to our base because we had SF, Green Berets downstairs, and we had a Green Beret medic. And we cleared a room for her. And she didn't come out of the room for 3 days, man. She was so messed up. And when she did, she looked like death. I mean, my God, I felt so sorry for that girl.
We'll do it. No, the food on this side of the world was probably the hardest thing I had to get used to. That and the hygiene, it was just, I was like, oh my God, where am I living now?
Yeah, the food I liked. I didn't mind the food in Afghanistan. I like palau, and you had a lot of you were eating, and I didn't mind eating camel and goat and sheep and all that. It was good, but it was the hygiene, because you'd go and they had a ditch where they had water coming from the river, and you go into town, and there's somebody there bathing their kid in the ditch, and then you go a little bit further, and there's a guy who's butchered something, and he's washing the meat in the ditch. And then you go a little further upstream, there's a guy pissing in it, and I'm like, okay, holy crap! That everybody's drinking the same water. And I'm like, yeah, no.
No, that was the hardest thing I got used to over here was the hygiene, but
yeah. The ancient Romans had better hygiene than the guys in northern Afghanistan.
Yeah, without doubt.
To put your camp upstream from your latrines.
Yep, you had to.
That was no other way to the Afghans.
Iraq was the same way. You know, I remember when I was a private in the infantry still, they did, and we were in Baghdad at this point. They brought in these women and they cooked this huge meal of local food for everybody. I was one of the only people, man. I was like, I just wasn't going to do it. I'm not like you, Jeff. And then later I came in, you know, that was one of the things that I wasn't very good as a Green Beret at, right? You're not supposed to have any food aversions. I'm like,
well, see, we had a good cook, and we had actually General Dostum lent us his cook.
Yeah.
And he was actually a good cook. So we had good food. But for lunch, we ate MREs. So we had like eggs
that's
and
what I ate,
breakfast. And then, you know, eggs and melon and the local bread, which was really, I loved the Afghan bread. And then we'd have MREs for lunch, and then he would cook dinner, and it always was palau plus something, because palau is a rice dish. That was every meal you had palau.
Yeah.
But you know, it was good. But I tell you what, when I came back, my wife's like, "What do you want to have for dinner?" I go, "Not rice.
Anything but rice.
Anything but rice." And I like the palau. It was good, but you have it every freaking day. It gets real old.
Yeah.
So since we're on this side of the world, let's switch over. The USS Abraham carrier group has entered into CENTCOM's AOR, and we've got U.S. fighter jets are running test patterns out of Qatar. The U.S., Israel, and Great Britain, the U.K. are all planning a coordinated attack on Iran. Iran, its proxies, Kitab Hezbollah in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen have all said that we will work as one united front if the U.S. were to attack Iran. And that looks like it's going to happen, even though a lot of people are against the attack from both the U.S. side and the Arab Gulf states. They've all said that if the U.S. attacks Iran, U.S. cargo ships in the Red Sea, U.S. military bases in the Middle East, Israel, and the USS Abraham and Lincoln carrier group are all valid targets. The reason I bring this up is because we've got a lot of division inside the U.S. government right now and in the Arab states. You've got J.D. Vance and Secretary Rubio that are in favor of the attack. And you've got a number of people on the other side that are saying, no, we are not going to go for a kinetic attack on Iran. When we get into the main topic tonight, you'll find out that the IRGC is actually part of the hostilities that are running in the U.S. right now. A lot of the money is going into IRGC hands, and they are orchestrating some of the rioting and the situation that we're having in Minnesota and other states. But we'll get into that when we get into the main topic. I want to ask you guys that how likely do you think the U.S. is to carry out a kinetic attack? How much do you think Iran is going to respond? Because they're talking 52 targets. 52 targets means all of their military bases, all of their missile silos. It's a decapitation strike on the IRGC, decapitation strike on all the mullahs. How much do you think there's going to be a response from Iran after the U.S., Israel, and the U.K. carry out this attack?
I don't know how much they'll be able to, because if you look during the 12-day war, Israel was pounding the crap out of them, and they really didn't respond. And then we hit their nuke sites, and other than lobbing a couple of missiles into Qatar, they really didn't respond. I don't know how much power projection capability they have, which is why they're leaning on their terrorist proxies. And if you do a decapitation strike and you take out IRGC headquarters and leadership, it's going to be very hard for them to coordinate a response. Trump kind of painted himself in a corner when he said, yeah, you start killing protesters, we're going to respond. Well, they've killed 36,500, and that's by Iranian estimates. So, either he has to do something, or he goes down as, okay, you're a paper tiger.
Just a question for you, Jeff. Have you heard that we got this report, I think it was midday today, that IRGC commanders, senior generals, have already nominated their successors, not just first year, but if the first tier is taken out, then the second tier, second tier is taken out, then the third tier. They have already nominated all the way through, because they're saying if they're expecting the decapitation strike, they're expecting that strike.
And that's good and all, except, okay, if I'm a general and I can nominate all the way down to PFC Smith, doesn't mean he can run things. It's what capability do those people have, and how many of them are willing to step in? It's basically saying, okay, here's the bullseye. We just killed your boss. We want you to step into the bullseye now. They may go, well, I'm not looking for a promotion right now. And Khomeini, I've heard reports he's going underground, blah, 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 and has kind of named his son, who's 54 or something like that, as the decision maker. That's basically just putting his son on the X. But I wouldn't bother me. Both of them went up. But Khomeini ordered all this. He ordered the punishment of the protesters, and they're dragging people out of hospitals and putting bullets in their heads. They're putting live humans into body bags and sending them to the morgue. And then if they make a noise or move, they shoot them. There was one guy, they report he played dead. They put him in a body bag. He went to the morgue and he lay there for 3 days. Just being quiet and not moving. And he could hear them shooting and killing other people around him. The only way he survived is the locals stormed the morgue to find their family members who'd been killed and rescued him. And there was a nurse who talked about them, Basiji guys and IRGC guys going into hospitals, yanking people out of their beds and shooting them dead. And she reported it, it got out, and then they killed her. She was dead 3 days later.
Shit. Randy, you've been in these situations on this side of the world. Let's hear what you think about what's going to happen with the U.S. and Iran.
Well, I think Jeff's right to a large part. So it's really going to come down to Trump are we really going to attack them or not? And if we hit those targets, I tend to believe that they're going to be fairly crippled right there. The only thing that concerns me is all the people that are here, right? The cells that we know that are already here. I will caveat on that though, because I know there's no other military people that act like or react or have doctrine like we do. And by that, I mean, when we're in combat and the leader gets killed and goes down, the very next guy steps up and keeps going. And that might be from an officer to an enlisted guy, just depending on the situation. But we still keep going where most other organizations and militaries don't, because they don't. I mean, it's just not how they work. Non-commissioned officers in other countries are definitely not like the non-commissioned officers that are in our military. There is a huge difference because they do have some command and control. Where overseas and all the other armies, the enlisted guys have zero say in anything. And so that part, I think, will cripple them. But at some point, we know that there's enough here that it won't take but somebody with a little bit of command and control or a little bit of respect from their community to invoke these guys to do something, because that would be my biggest concern. If we hadn't had the 4 years of Biden, honestly, and, pardon my French, I'd say, fuck them. There's nothing any of them can do. If they all want to gang up on us because we hit Iran, so what? Even Israel, as little as it is, smoked them in the 6-day war. And it would have been worse than that if we not stopped them. And they would have done it a numerous amount of times since then. But again, we've stopped them every time. But that, again, my biggest point, though, the biggest takeaway is they won't be completely dead, unfortunately, because there's enough people here now that we only need somebody they only need somebody that can rally the troops here and then send them forward. That's really all they need. Yeah.
But I've got a question for you, Randy. I mean, we saw what happened in Iraq when we took Saddam down and put Nur al-Maliki in power. If you take out the Mullah regime, and the Mullah regime needs to go, that's something we've said over and over, it needs to go. What are the chances they can find another leader that can actually take over and run Iran and not have a repeat of what happened in Iraq?
Well, that is the problem, Khalid, because you saw we did in Afghanistan and Iraq both. And what happened to those first leaders in both of those? By all accounts, they were good guys, right? They were the people that we needed to be in charge. They were going to be pro-American, all this and that. And what happened? They all got whacked long before they got there and were able to take over. That's my fear in that scenario, right? Because somehow it doesn't seem like the good guys ever make it into taking power when you have a collapse like this, and then certainly a vacuum and a power vacuum left by, just like when we saw with Saddam, right? We did try to put somebody in charge, but it didn't really matter because the insurgency took over right after that.
Yeah, because we've seen it in 3 countries. We've seen it in Afghanistan, we've seen it in Iraq, and we've seen it in Libya. When we took out the dictator, there was a huge power vacuum, and no one wanted to play along with whoever was picked. So, I mean, my fear right now, and this is a question for both you and Jeff. You take out the Mullah regime, number one, what is the chance of the IRGC taking over Iran? Number two, if the IRGC doesn't take over, who does lead Iran? Because the son of the Shah is not capable of running Iran. He doesn't have the support to take power.
Well, I'll let Jeff give the technical answer because I know he's going to have a much better one than me. But what I will say is the same thing I just said. Generally, it seems to be the people that have their shit together and have a network are the bad guys. They have all the money, they have all the weapons, they have all the men, and then they come and take charge. That's usually what we see with that power vacuum, because you got to have a very powerful force to be able to stay there and take it. And what I will say this time will be different. Where we messed up in Iraq, in my opinion, and is we let Iran play that perfectly from the start. And it seems like we didn't do anything about it. And then the insurgency started, and they dialed that thing up perfectly for a number of years. Now, if we topple that leadership and we kill all those folks, they'll, again, we won't know what we're dealing with, is my point on that. So I'll let Jeff go ahead and give the answer of who's going to take over.
Well, I would hope not the IRGC, because they're just as bad as the mullahs. There are more moderate people within the Iranian system. A lot of them look more conservative than they are, because if you don't present as a conservative, I mean religious conservative, they don't let you on the ballot. I mean, you have to pass the government scrutiny to even be eligible to run for office. So there are a lot of people who, and I hate to say it, it's like in World War II in Germany, a lot of people joined the Nazi party because that was the only way to survive. And I have a feeling the same thing's going on in Iran. So what you need to do is identify the more moderate members. And what you do is you start with the people that the Council of Mullahs won't let run for national office, because they're probably more moderate. But you're going to have to get past the IRGC. They hold levers of power. They have money, and they have they have the military strength. But if they read the writing on the wall, which is, okay, the mullahs are going down, they may acquiesce to more sane, moderate people being involved in the government, then you might have something. You look at Venezuela, we removed Maduro, but we didn't decapitate the entire government, because who took over? The vice president. Still a socialist, etc., but not not a narco-terrorist, and not as bad, and smart enough to realize, okay, Maduro hit the point of diminishing returns. I don't want to go that far, because then they'll remove my ass too. But the last thing we want to do is see a total meltdown like we had in Iraq. And that's why I would hope that the Iranian military, the regular army, not the IRGC, can kind of step up and be a calming force on the country.
So that is the hope, because I mean, the fear we have on our side of the world, Iran's a border country to Pakistan, and if Iran goes into the same state that Iraq went into, it's going to open up a lot of problems between Pakistan and Iran.
It's going to be your mess, whether you like it or not.
It's always our mess. Afghanistan was our mess as well.
Well, what we did wrong in Iraq, you can get rid of the Republican Guard in Iraq without much problem. We got rid of the whole Iraqi army, and it was like, oh,
that was
God,
the biggest.
was that?
That was the biggest mistake.
pissed off young guys with machine guns out on the street with no prospects. What
Well,
people,
that's not exactly true, Jeff. We only killed half of them. The rest just took off their clothes and melted back into society.
but they took the machine guns with them,
Yeah, they did.
and we fired all of them.
That's right. Well, you know, we were destroying all the weapons up till, man, I want to say Najaf. We weren't very far from Karbala when we finally got the order. And I guess that's when somebody said, hey, wait a minute. We're going to have to supply the army that we set up afterwards. We don't need to buy all new ones. Let's just stop. Because literally, I can't tell you how many weapons we destroyed on the way there. But it was significant.
But they don't need strategic weapons to maintain control of the country.
Yeah,
that's
they just need guns.
Issue. That's not a long-range artillery and a missile issue.
No, but if we swing over, I mean, we've all been watching what's going on in Syria as well, and my fear, I'm going to connect Syria to Iran on this, because my fear is what we're seeing in Syria with Jalani. They are actually massacring Kurds, the Kurdish people. Just yesterday, we saw videos, and I'm not going to show the video, but they ran over a Kurdish family and kept running the car over and over them. Even at the same time, there was a group of Jalani supporters, a group of terrorists that burned a 22-year-old alive, videoed the whole thing, sent it to his family and said, if you want the body, you have to give us $500. And I think it was 15 or 20 people they slaughtered that way. My fear is what's going on in Syria may blow back on both Iraq and on Iran, because he's not going to stop. Jalani has got power. He's got ISIS, and ISIS with Afghanistan on the other side of Iran and Syria on the other side of Iraq. The two of them moving together, they could really cause a lot of problems if turmoil were to set in on Iran. I know
nobody talks about it anymore, really. You don't hear. So how stable is Iraq? I mean, can you think about this? Could go real bad real quick, because it's still we just don't talk about it. But Iraq hasn't healed; it isn't recovered.
Well, and Iraq is a very uneasy amalgam of three different peoples. You've got Sunni Arabs in the west, Shia Arabs in the south, and then Sunni Kurds in the north. And they all have any two have a reason to hate the other one. And that was what made Yugoslavia come apart at the seams, because you had Croats, Bosnians, and Serbs, and any two had a reason to hate the other one. Bosnians, the Bosnians and Serbs didn't like the Croats because the Croats sided with the Nazis in World War II. Croats and the Serbians hated the Bosnians because they had been Christian and became Muslim. They gave up their faith in the Dark Ages, right? So they were traitors to their race. Then the Croats and the Bosnians could get together to hate the Serbs because they lived under the third Serbian thumb for 40, 50 years. So that was a recipe from the only smart ones in the group were the Slovenes, who said, we're out of here too. And they were on the fringe. They just said, we're going to Europe. Just leave us the hell out of this. And they really were not involved in the Civil War. And then also Montenegro, only because nobody gave a rat's ass about Montenegro. It's up in the mountains. And they were so tied to, they were basically Serbia. And Macedonia, they didn't care about Macedonia either. Only the Greeks did. And they wouldn't have cared about Macedonia if they would change their name to something other than Macedonia.
Question for you both. Nur al-Maliki has been nominated to become the next prime minister of Iraq. Randy, you're quite familiar with how well al-Maliki ran Iraq when he was in power before, from 2006 to 2014. That was when ISIS came into existence. How much danger is there with an unstable Iran, and with Nur al-Maliki coming back in power, who himself is a Shia, has a lot of pro-Iran ties, has a lot of ties to the militia groups that are Irani supported, and then you have ISIS on your border on the other side. And in addition to that, the Turkish foreign minister today said that, we will not allow any Kurds to continue to exist either in our country or in Iraq. They will be done in the next month or two. They will no longer exist. How much danger are we seeing now with the way Turkey is starting to move with a failure of a prime minister in Nur al-Maliki and turmoil in Iraq, in Iran, and Jolani sitting in Syria?
Man, you put it that way. I was just sitting here thinking, then I go back into when I was, a kid back in the 70s and 80s and where all these countries were. And now let's fast forward to where we are today, and the entire area, the entire region has been destabilized. And this guy, as you know, this guy's just, clearly he is a puppet. They just put him there. So I would say that the potential for this to go bad really fast is more likely than not. I think that's probably the bigger probability of what will happen, because let's just look at what, how Syria's gone since Giuliani, right? And this other guy's not any different. So man, that's a very scary thought, because you think about it, when it was just Iraq, Iran was still pretty stable and Syria fell apart. And now Iran is, I don't know, man. I think that this has the recipe to be really bad. And it has to be dealt with in a very delicate manner. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. So, and there's a lot to consider, as you well know. I mean, again, let's look at how stable that region was only 2 or 3 decades ago. And now it's completely unraveled. And the problem with momentum, certainly when it's bad momentum and it starts that spiral down, like when you flush the toilet, guess what happens? It just all goes, right? There's no stopping it, unfortunately. And, man, I look at even what we're going through in our own country right now. These are very serious and big problems to deal with on top of everything else. And it's one of those things I would, in my opinion, that I would much rather us be able to deal with without a bunch of other extra shit all around and taken away and distracting, and then no one being united. It's a problem. It's a real problem. And I think that could, if we're not careful, could lead us right to World War III.
Yeah.
Well,
Jeff?
One of the problems with Turkey trying to get rid of all the Kurds is basically 20% of their population is Kurdish.
Yep.
And that's 16 million people. Are they going to kill 16 million of their own people?
Well, it'd be the Holocaust all over again. Just
it would be worse than the Holocaust.
The way Erdogan is talking, the way the foreign minister from Turkey is talking, they are talking about a complete and total elimination of the Kurdish population.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening, because the PKK put down their arms years ago. But you start wholesale slaughtering Kurds, they're going to be more than happy to pick those weapons back up again. And is Europe going to stand by? Are they going to just sit there and let him kill 15 million people? I don't see them invading Turkey, but I see them saying, we're cutting off your economy and watching, their economy go in the crapper, which it's done in the past. In which case, the people will rise up and say, what the hell are you doing, man? Erdogan's nuts.
Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, Erdogan.
He's crazy.
No, I was listening to the Turkish foreign minister today, and he made a really interesting statement. He said, we're not looking to create the Ottoman Empire again, but if a bunch of nation states want to get together and form an alliance, there's nothing really wrong with that. That kind of exposed the intent of what Turkey's trying to do. Is that, okay, we've got Giuliani on our side. Now we need to get someone friendly in Iraq on our side. And we need to put our fingers into Iran as well, and get them on our side as well, so that we've got a nice little block of our own that we can operate from.
And then we're going to invade Europe and lay siege to Vienna. Oh wait, we've done that before. Yeah, we're going to take the Holy Land. It's sort of like the Russians saying, we don't want to recreate the Soviet Union. We just want a binding alliance between Russia, Belarus, the Baltic states, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, we don't want the Soviet Union. We just want all the territory that used to be the Soviet Union to be ours.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and that's what it looks like.
A distinction without a difference.
Yep, yep. But I mean, it's kind of exposed what Erdogan is thinking, because a lot of what Jelani is doing right now, he's doing with Qatar's funds and he's doing with Turkish military. And if that's the intent, if you look at a map of Iraq right now, most of Western Iraq has Turkish forces sitting on their border or within the country, and using them against the Kurds can lead to mass slaughter. And that's a fear that we need. That's why I put the question out the way I did, that an unstable Iran, a questionable prime minister in Iraq, and Jelani sitting in Syria, that's three countries you've just put into mass turmoil.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, when you have that much turmoil going on in the region, Turkey can do some nasty shit at home and nobody really pays attention because, well, in the grand scheme of things, it's not as bad as what's happening in Syria and what's happening in Iran and what's happening in Iraq.
Yep. That is the fear. That is the fear. I'm going to roll into the main topic because we got a lot to cover. Ever since the shooting in Minnesota, things have gone absolutely batshit crazy. The problem we've got now is that you've got Tim Walz and Frey, the Mayor Frey, literally challenging the federal government to make another step, to try something else. We've gotten statements from Obama. We've gotten statements from other people that are in support of what's going on. We're going to talk about Signalgate as well at quite length. But I want to set the stage right, because look, we are in, and I said this the other night, we are on the bleeding edge of civil war right now, because the foreign countries, the foreign powers that are funding the riots inside the United States through the radical leftists, the Trantifas, the Antifas, the 5501s, their intent is to cause as much damage as they possibly can to the United States. We're going to end up with a lot of problems happening inside the U.S. if Donald Trump doesn't act. I know that Kristi Noem has had a couple meetings with Donald Trump over the past few days about invoking the Insurrection Act. We'll get into that as well. I don't understand why that the president is having so much trouble deciding whether he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act or not. We're going to start off with, let's see. We're going to start off with Pam Bondi talking about what the state is right now.
Well, we saw the mayor said, F ICE, get out of my effing city. How is that not rhetoric contributing to this? It all is. And that's the shame of it. Look at these murderers, homicide, rape, homicide, manslaughter. That's who they're trying to protect in Minnesota. I do not understand these people. We sent Governor Walz a very strong letter today. We had been working on this letter. We got it out saying that he better support President Trump. He better support the men and women in law enforcement, because if he doesn't, we are. And that's what we're doing right now.
Jeff, I'm going to start off with you. Is this really a time to be talking about strongly worded letters? I mean,
No, it's like harsh language. Yeah, no, that you don't need letters, you need action. And what they need to do is say, okay, we have this many agents there and you're giving us grief. Good, then we're going to put this many. If you keep up more pressure, we're going to get that many. You just got to show them the more trouble you cause, the more people we're going to put there. And you can't let them because anytime you back off even a little bit, unless you've completed your mission and arrested everybody, they're going to call that a victory for their side. And it's just going to spur them to do it over and over and over again. So they need to be shown you're going to lose. No matter what you think you're going to do, you're going to lose. We have more resolve than you do, and we have more resources than you do. And these people who are out there interfering with ICE, you need to just freaking arrest their asses and throw them in jail. And do it on a federal charge, so some local judge can't just, spring them and say, no, this is a federal charge. You need a federal judge. And if the federal judge says we're going to release him, say, great, well, we're going to hold him in jail because we're going to appeal. And we're going to hold him in jail until our appeal is heard.
I don't know if you saw the letter that Pam Bondi sent. We've actually have a copy of the letter. Bondi put into the letter that if you give us your voter registration list from Minnesota, we'll pull ICE. And that is almost like a surrender. If you give me your voter registration list, I'm gonna we'll back off the law enforcement side.
I like Tom Homan's approach. Okay, here's all these criminals we need to arrest. You help us arrest them, we'll pull out, because that's what we're here for. You've got them in your jails in a lot of cases. Turn them over to us, and then we'll leave, because we're here to collect the criminals. And I'm just seeing something, the majority of ICE detainees have no criminal convictions. I don't care. They're illegal aliens. They don't have a right to be here. If they have a criminal conviction on top of that, okay, they really shouldn't be here. But I equate it to somebody is trespassing on your property and you call the police. The absolute minimum you would expect from the police is to make them freaking get off your property, which is, in our case, as a country, you're in the United States illegally. You're trespassing. At the very least, they should kick you out of the country. Not putting you in jail. They're sending you home. And it's insane that people say, no, this trespasser has a right to trespass. And you're going, yeah, I'm the owner. No, he doesn't. But on top of that, a lot of these people are trespassing, and they're breaking into your house, and they're raping your kids, and they're killing your dogs, and they're robbing you. They really don't have a right to be here.
Yeah. Agreed. Randy, question for you. Pam Bondi has been absolutely ineffective as Attorney General for the United States. I mean, the Epstein case, the fraud case in Minnesota, the massive fraud that's going on in California. Pam Bondi has not done anything to bring the Department of Justice into play where we could actually say that she could do something. Tom Homan has been dispatched by the president to go to Minnesota and sort out and oversee basically what is going on in Minnesota and carry out the law enforcement. Do you think that's an answer? I mean, are we going to have to do this in every state where we're going to have to send a czar because the Department of Justice do their job?
I wish I had the answer to that. I'm sure we all do, right? We all want to know the answer to that. Because January 6th went by a couple weeks back. It's been a year. There are no arrests. No one's been held accountable. And even when we go to this Minnesota thing, how is it? And we've all seen on the internet. Why is ICE in all these other states? And the only two times it's gotten violent are at LA and in Minnesota. Now that all this fraud's been uncovered, and now old Patel's going to open up an investigation, dude. Either the FBI is complicit or they're complete imbeciles, because they're the ones that should have uncovered the fraud. They're the ones that should have uncovered all this stuff that's going on in Minnesota. And the fact is, we all know right now, and I can tell you emphatically, they have the proof to put that guy in jail. They have the proof to put Waltz in jail over this and all the rest of them. But for some reason, we would rather say, I'm going to send a scathing letter. Yeah, that's real serious. I'm telling you, you've got them shaking in their boots. They're doubling down over there. They're laughing at you. They're laughing at us because they're getting away with it, because apparently we're not going to do anything about it.
Question for you,
and
Randy.
That starts with Bondi, right? Yeah, that starts with Bondi.
Well, I'm gonna put this question to you because you brought up Kash Patel. It wasn't until Cam Higsby broke the story and infiltrated the signal chat that it took Kash Patel to go, wait a minute, we're the FBI. Let's do something about this. how much does that show us how ineffective law enforcement at a federal level is when the FBI has to act on someone else doing their job for them?
It's like I just said, they're either complicit in what's going on, or they're complete imbeciles, or they're just looking the other way intentionally, right? Those are your only three options we have, because if you look at what the FBI has been historically and what that organization has been able to do and the amount of respect it built on its beginnings, and to where it is today is ridiculous. Because again, just like you said, they should have, if they were cracking on, the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War, whatever, because somebody put in another number in his chat, how come they weren't discovering that then? How is it that all this stuff, including all that fraud, the fact that they had daycare set up that there's no kids in and they couldn't even spell learning right and no one noticed?
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's because they're all in on it. So like I said, people want to still say, and I know this is a little different topic, but it's not really. They want to say, well, this is all to cover up for the Epstein files and, Trump's in them too. Well, listen here, folks. If they had proof that Trump was guilty, they would have charged him between 20 and 24. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They would have charged him and they would have put him in prison. We wouldn't even be talking about him anymore by now. It would be over that far. So the reason it's not, it's because all the rest of them are in on it, or the majority. So that is what our problem is. So it doesn't matter how much, apparently how much evidence, because we have mountains and mountains and mountains of it in many different areas now. It also comes down to, as I told you, if our intelligence agencies and the federal agencies that are responsible for all this shit were doing their job, none of this would be happening, because they would have already caught it all. The fact that they're not tells you they're doing something else. Yeah. And if we go back to January 6th and we go back to Gretchen's kidnapping, supposedly, they're the ones that orchestrated all that. The FBI did all of that. Cooks. The FBI was washing off the blood from that guy's head and body off the roof, and it hadn't even been 8 hours yet. One, you don't touch a crime scene probably for at least 24 hours. It might be longer than that, depending on what it is. Two, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to see an FBI agent cleaning up a crime scene. They don't do that. It's not in their job description. That is a whole nother field of work. But you're never going to see an FBI agent doing that. So what is our FBI doing? Well, apparently trying to overthrow the government and kick us off to the wayside. That's the only thing I can deduce from what we're seeing. And again, even down to Pam Bondi and Patel, there has been no action, no nothing, nobody held accountable. But the caveat to that is we all want that. And believe me, I do too. And if we ever get anybody that will take that seriously and start holding them accountable, folks, you're going to see some real conflict, because these people that are pulling the shots right now aren't going to just let us walk up and put the handcuffs on them. No, they're going to be willing to do anything. They dropped COVID on you, and there's no telling what else they have planned. And I guarantee you, they would start World War III to keep them from being held accountable. And if you don't believe me, everybody just remember, it was only till Ukraine. You remember before that, no one ever talked about like a nuclear war, like it was no big deal. Oh, well, we're about to have a nuclear war. That never happened with any politician or journalist until Ukraine started. Then they were like, oh, well, looks like we might be fixing to have. So they're ready for it. And again, it also comes down to what I said about this whole thing, right? You got to wonder why they're trying to kick us into a civil war where we start fighting each other, or a revolution. You got to ask yourself why they think that they can do that and they'll be able to stop the bloodshed after it starts and do what they want to do, because they must have something in their back pocket that they know they can. Otherwise, you wouldn't risk it, because all we've known since the beginning of time, when a war starts, it is very hard to stop it. Once the killing and the blood flow starts, it is very, very hard to stop it. That's why our own Civil War took 5 years. World War II took 5 years. It takes a lot of killing to get to that point.
Yep.
And so you got to ask, why do they feel so confident in starting this? And that's what scares me the most.
Yeah. Jeff, I'm going to put the same question to you. Why is it that the FBI acted after, Cam came up, was able to penetrate the far left in the Signalgate case and pull out all the names? I mean, just the amount of information that's come out since Cam has infiltrated. Data Republican has got a list of 9,000 donors, and we put it up on our X that you can download it. 9,000 donors that she has identified and how much money they're giving. You've got the Signal chat that's running. You've got the lieutenant governor. You've got campaign managers, high-level Democrats that are in that chat orchestrating how this should go on. Where the fuck was the FBI?
Well, they had their thumb up their butt for the most part. That Cam Hidby did more of their job than they did. And all he did was pretend to be a lunatic and say, I want to join your group. And then went, okay. Because they can't vet everybody. The thing about a Signal chat is it's really hard to vet people because you have a phone number and a handle. And I would, if the Bureau had any common sense, they would have had people in that Signal chat early on just listening to see what's going on. Or ICE should have, just so they can say, okay, they think we're over here, let's go over there. I still think you have a lot of people within the FBI who are diehard leftists, and they agree with these people, and they're not going to do anything to undermine them because they agree with them. This is like, a communist country, communism falls, but all the people in the government were communists the day before yesterday. Do you really think their mood and their attitude has changed that much in 48 hours? Yeah, no. And same thing in Iran, with IRGC, all these people, it's their bread that's getting buttered. They're not they don't want to close down the fraud. They don't want to have light shown on their government because it could either lead to them going to jail or at the very least, they're kicked off the gravy train. No, and I agree. 90% of these riots and crap, it's not about going after illegals. They don't give a rat's ass about that. It's to create a distraction so they can't go after the fraud. As a famous man once said, follow the money.
Yep. You follow the money, you find the problem.
Yep.
Let's listen to what Tampon Tim had to say when he had to answer for the mistake.
Minnesota and our local law enforcement, as you have seen, have done everything possible to de-escalate. Local media has reported extensively on the cooperation to de-escalate this situation. Donald Trump, I call on you once again, remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. But in contrast to that, on these frozen streets, what you witnessed yesterday was the best of Minnesotans, peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. And I attended in the church basement hundreds of Minnesotans from all faith packing care packages for families that have been ripped apart. Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota.
Jeff, I saw you laughing over there. I'm going to come to you first.
Well, I mean, everything he said was just a joke, Oh, we urge everybody to be peaceful. No, you don't. You're sending them out there to do this crap. Yeah, this is the guy who tells you the sky is purple and then is shocked when you don't believe him.
Yeah. Because I listen to Tim Walz talk like that, and I've watched that video maybe 4 or 5 times and trying to figure out what planet is he living on when he said Minnesotans were peacefully protesting. You were setting fire You were breaking into hotels. You've created chats, locations where no go, and that's peaceful. I mean, come on,
Yeah.
really?
It's a joke.
Well, I mean, he's obviously lying. You know what I mean? Clearly. And you know, why wouldn't he? This guy, who knows how much of those billions of dollars of fraud has ended up in his bank accounts or overseas accounts, wherever he has it, and the rest of his ilk that are up there, the governor, the mayor, probably the assistant governor, or whatever the heck their title is. But regardless, all those people up there getting paid, or all that money would not be going out. They're not going to just let it go out and not say a word if they're not getting paid themselves. So, of course, this is perfect for him. And as long as he can keep this little charade up, no, the media is not asking him about the money. And of course, the media is on his side, because if they weren't, they wouldn't sit there and let him say half of what he just said without questioning him on it or calling him out on it for lying. You know, and he goes in. I saw a couple of people mentioning the second guy that just got shot. Here's reality, folks. The guy's a fruit ball. It's clear by his pages, what's his online presence, who this guy really was. And even his dad told him before he left, don't go interfere and don't do anything stupid. Now, he may not have pointed that gun at the guy, but here's what happened, folks. If you're an idiot and you go to a peaceful protest and you brought a gun, you're already wrong right there. One, why did you bring the gun? Now we're never going to be able to ask him because he's dead. He got himself dead. Second is you don't then go confront police or law enforcement. You don't go and get in federal agent's face and then tell them you have a gun. So if you watch the video close enough, here's exactly what happened. And he didn't know it, and neither did the guy that shot him. Now, yes, an officer, as he's tangling with 3 or 4 of them there, one of them disarms him. The police officer behind him didn't see it, and the poor guy himself didn't even know. So when he reached for his gun because he didn't know that he just got disarmed, that's when he got shot. And if you're fighting with officers, if you were fighting with me and I'm the officer, or I'm overseas in uniform and I got a gun and you reach for your gun, I'm not waiting for you to pull it out. I'm going to shoot you dead right there. And that's exactly what happened to him. Then it's his own fault. It's his own fault. Now, am I happy the guy got dead? No, because this is what they want. Just like Tampon Tim, this is what they all want. More of those people to die in these conflicts so they can keep just throwing their name out there. So this idiot, along with Gooden, just threw away their lives on an empty, fake-ass cause that now their stupid leaders are just going to use their name to keep their little spit going. And again, because the Minnesota fraud is only the tip of the iceberg, folks. It's only the tip of the iceberg. I guarantee you, if we rooted out all the fraud in all 50 states and the federal governments that all these idiot lefties have been doing, we probably wipe out the entire debt that we have, the 35 trillion or whatever it is.
They're saying California, Minnesota, once they uncover how much corruption has been done in California, it'll make Minnesota look like a drop in an ocean. That's
I heard my state's the same way. I heard Texas is the same way.
Yeah,
I hope not, but that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
We were sent a corruption list for Georgia, Texas, California. There were 3 or 4 other states I can't remember. Someone sent them to us on our Command 11 email address. And when I went through and I looked, I went, holy shit. Once this stuff is made public, how are you going to keep a civil war from not happening? Because when you cut off the spigot of money that these people are making, they're not going to let their gravy train. I almost try and connect it with Zelensky in Ukraine. The reason Zelensky wants the war to keep going in Ukraine is because he's making money. And if the Ukraine war stops, Zelensky's pay stops. So why would you stop the war? Why would you agree to a ceasefire and end the war with Russia? But it really bugs me because, like you said, this is covered to hide the fraud, and they don't want this fraud investigated. I mean, we've heard TSA agents talk about every week Somalians were coming through the Minneapolis airport with duffel bags full of millions of dollars. and they were allowed to walk through and get onto an airplane. How in the fuck is that being allowed? And how is nobody going, wait a minute, where's this money coming from? And where are you taking it? All that money ended up in Al-Shabaab's pockets. You literally funded a terrorist organization from Minnesota. But I'm kind of, I think Win Ivy's got the story right in the way he put this for Broward County. It's a 59.
If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that.
This guy's got it right. I don't care how many people disagree with what he has to say. This is what law enforcement means. I mean, if you fuck with the law enforcement, this is when I was in the US, you didn't dare spit on a cop. You didn't dare spit on a cop. They would kick the shit out of you and then take you to jail and charge you with assaulting an officer. Now it seems to be, ever since the George Floyd incident and BLM, police have lost respect, and now they're afraid to do what they need to do because of what happened with George Floyd. I'm wondering, and we've talked about this during the Long War series as well, the number of the standards that have been decreased to allow people to join police forces since the defund the police movement. We are seeing people who should not be wearing a uniform, and they have no idea what law enforcement means. Jeff, I'm going to ask you this question. If every police force in the U.S. were to behave like Broward County and the way Win Ivy is talking, how much of the problem would be decreased before it turned into a problem?
Well, you got a lot of stupid people out there who would push it. They don't do it once, but there's a lot of them. But I think if every police force acted like this, and they don't let it go to the head, they don't strong arm people, they don't be bullies, they just enforce the law and not put up with crap, a lot of that crap would go away. When I was a kid, man, you did not screw with a cop. And if you did and you got busted, your dad would smack you in the head and say, "Why are you screwing with the cops?"
Yep.
Yeah, you just didn't do that stuff.
Randy?
No, it was a matter of respect, right?
Yeah.
It was a matter of respect. And, as we all know, sooner or later, you're going to need the cops at some point. It just happens, whether you get in a wreck or something gets stolen, who really knows? But the fact is, we used to have respect for law enforcement in this country, and that's what they stripped them of. Now, we've had some cops do some bad things, but that's reality, folks. It's what people do. It's just a human nature thing, just like when people attack religion because of the pastors. And, it wasn't God's fault, and you're not going to be able to blame God. They'll say, "Oh, well, he let it happen." Well, because there's free choice, and you're allowed to do whatever you want, including bad things, because you're not going to be going with him. But it's just a fact that, it happens. But, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I was thinking about something somebody said in the chat a minute ago, and I got to stop doing that. But, because then sometimes
cops are good. Can
Yeah.
you get a bad cop? Absolutely, you can get a bad cop. And when
That's
you
right.
do, you find them, you investigate them, you root them out, you get rid of them.
Yeah,
But
and that's how it works.
99% are good guys trying to do what's right for their community, because you realize they live in the community too. You know, the schools and everything that they're trying to protect is where their kids go to school. The neighborhood where they, you know, when they see someone suspicious walking around a neighborhood, that might be their neighborhood. You know, and they want to know. And if you're suspicious walking around a neighborhood and the cop stops you, answer his questions. If you're innocent, you know, what do I live over here? I'm walking over there. Okay, they check your ID. Okay, you're right. Thank you. Move. But when you get on your high horse and say, you don't have a right to ask me this, it's like, dude, you know, you're going to have the right to kiss the ground in a minute too. Because you know, they're just doing their job. And if you're not doing anything wrong, you know, you're good to go. Now, you know, if you're on your property and they go, what are you doing out here? You go, I'm just standing on my property. And if there's two of you, you can say, this is my property. We're standing here together. And, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to push you.
Well, I think the other thing we're seeing is right now, you know, it's kind of like when the Seditious Six, right, came out and said, oh, you know, to military and all the defense complex, really, right? You know, you shouldn't follow illegal orders. Really, what they were saying is, if you don't follow some of what he gives you, we got your back. That's really what they're saying. They've got some cover for it. And the media is doing the same thing, which is what we see. And that's why when we start seeing things go wrong, which there's been a lot of problems in the Black community with them and law enforcement, we won't get down that deal. But certainly in the last 15 or 20 years, and certainly in 2020, we start seeing them do the same thing. They think that now they don't have to comply with law enforcement because the media is not going to hold them accountable, and neither are the mayor or the governor. So then you will see them, which is always, to me, I'm thinking, I would never sit there and do that with a law enforcement officer. I'm not going to start causing all that trouble and then start resisting and fighting. Why? Because the man's got a gun, and if you fight hard enough, he can legally shoot you and it'll be okay. So in my mind, that means and again, it's respect for law. If they ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. If they tell me to do this, I'm going to do that. Why? Because that's what we do. That's what Americans do. This other bullshit, that's not resistance, folks. That's not what that's called, you know? And so really we need to get back where law enforcement's that way. If you struggle with law enforcement, you get arrested, and we need to get rid of, I heard it on Live PD earlier today. Well, we're going to go book him and then release him. That shouldn't be said in the same sentence. That should never be said in the same sentence. You get booked, you go to jail, you go see the justice of the peace. If you have the money to bail out after that, then you get out. But there should be no release. And that's one of our biggest problems, just letting these criminals go and keep doing it. And that's what we've watched now, including in New York City. Look at all the crime there in LA of people doing it because they're not going to get in trouble or be held accountable. And that is our problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. I mean, it's a good segue into the next part, because part two of the show tonight is how the rhetoric has started to escalate. And when we look at what the media is doing, they are giving airtime to those people that are on the side of the rioters, on the side of the protesters. And you've got politicians singing that same song. For me, it's just, I am surprised at to where the U.S. has gotten, because growing up in the U.S., we respected the police. We understood what the laws were. We didn't see a police officer very often on the street because everyone knew what laws were and they followed them. And when you did deal with a police officer, you did it with respect. Yes, sir. This is where I live. This is my house. I'm just playing in my yard. There wasn't a fear of, you know, this cop is going to hit me because I'm in someplace I shouldn't be. And when you are someplace you shouldn't be, well, you're violating the law. But the problem we've got now is you've got politicians and the media, and you've got like
as it relates to the enforcement that we see right now, let me be clear. They are supposed to do immigration and customs enforcement, not going after U.S. citizens, not going after people that are documented. That is not what they are supposed to do, but that is what they are doing. They are turning us into Nazi Germany by saying they're going to go door to door. They are going after people because of their accent or the color of their skin, because this Supreme Court gave them carte blanche ability to do so. So all we want ICE to do is to do what ICE was created to do. And unfortunately, that's not what they are doing. Yeah, as it relates.
Now, I'm sorry. The last time I learned the English language, immigration enforcement means arresting those people that are not supposed to be in your country. I don't know where Jasmine Crockett is coming from when she says they're not doing what they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Immigration and customs is not just in the airport. It's not just on the borders. It's in your cities as well. When they know there's an illegal alien in your city, they are going to arrest him. They are going to go door to door. I'm going to relate this to Pakistan. I mean, the number of Afghanis that we have arrested and thrown out of the country here in Pakistan, we have actually passed a law now that anyone who rents a house, rents a shop to an Afghani who is here illegally, they lose that house. You lose your property for supporting an illegal alien. I don't understand where the Democrats are coming from, and like I'm going to relate this to Tampon Tim's statement that we're trying to turn down the rhetoric. This is someone in your party that is saying these things. Jeff, I'm going to go to you first, but help me understand and we've talked about this before, how the Democrats are always ramping up rhetoric and then going, well, it's not us, it's you guys. It's not us, it's you guys. And when you play the videos and you listen to them talk, it's them that's doing this. At what point are the Democrats going to realize that this is wrong?
Well, I think sane Democrats, the few that are left, do recognize that it's wrong. And because I think they recognize at its heart what it really means. What they're saying is we want to fight to keep criminals on the streets. We want to fight to keep rapists, murderers, and child molesters free in our communities. And I think Republicans really need to put it in simple terms. That's what it means. They are fighting to keep rapists, criminals, wife beaters, child molesters on the streets and in our country. And I wish someone would just sit down with these people and say, okay, here are the people we're deporting. Give me one good reason why they should be allowed to stay in the United States at all. And if someone, they have kids here, not my problem. Well, they've been living here for 20 years. Again, not my problem. Kick them out. The ones that need to go to jail, let them go to jail. And the minute they're released from jail, they're put on a plane and freaking dropped in their home country with or without parachute. That's optional, depending on the crime.
Yep.
And because you want to go to these idiots and say, okay, you've got kids. The guy ICE is trying to arrest is a child molester. Please explain to me how you're going to explain that to your kids, that you went to jail so that a child molester from outside of the United States could stay in your country, in your community, to molest your child.
Yeah. Randy?
Well, I think what we're watching here is, because they kind of got caught a little bit. One, they brought in all these illegal aliens to vote. That's why they put them on Medicare, Medicaid, gave them money for housing and food and everything else. Social Security, gave them the full bit, gave them more than they've ever given any American citizen, period, ever. And it's so that they will vote for them. And we know this because it's starting to come out more and more. But literally before this, the first woman got shot good, I guess. Do you remember when the fraud popped out? One of the Somalians came out and threatened the Democrat leadership in Minnesota and said, hey, if y'all don't put an end to all this investigation into the fraud, we're going to think about it whether we vote Democrat anymore or not. And that's what it really comes down to. They have now imported their new voter base. So all these people like this guy that's always ranting here, it's got to be a Democrat. Let me find his name, Chris something.
Yeah, I've seen him.
Same people, yeah.
Critical
They
Chris.
fall for it. They fall for it every time. Yes, falls for it, hook, line, and sinker every time. And now Trump and all those guys, lackeys are the bad guys, the brown shirts, they're all Nazis. They're going door. Shut up. None of that is even true.
No.
And the fact is, they brought them in so they could vote. That's why they're fighting so hard to keep them. That's why they're saying they're not criminals. That's why they're saying they should get due process. but none of it is true. And it's the same
Yep.
thing with the anchor baby. I know somebody recently I saw in the last week finally looked up the real statute, and it literally says, just because you're a foreigner and you came here visiting or whatever, you're here and have a baby, doesn't make that baby American.
Yep.
And that's another thing that they try to say, and that's where the anchor baby came. But it's unconstitutional, Chris.
Yep.
It's unconstitutional, buddy.
No, this is where I don't get it. I mean, if we talk numbers and the number of illegals that have been deported by presidents, Obama has deported more illegals than Trump has in his 2 terms so far. And I don't understand where the Democrats are coming from. And I'm going to get to this in a second, but I want to put up Chuck Schumer's comment. Chuck Schumer the other day said, well, the Democratic Party is not going to support any appropriation bill that includes funding for the Department of Homeland Security, and is obviously targeting ICE funding, which means we're headed for another government shutdown by the end of January. The bill he's targeting is called the Big Budget Act, which gives Homeland Security $170 billion over the next 4 years that is set up to track, trace, arrest, and deport 1 million illegals every year. At the same time, the U.S. is talking about, the White House is talking about activating the 1978 Alien Enemy Act, which was a wartime law that gives the president the authority to detain or deport anyone who is not a citizen of the United States to any hostile nation during a declared war or invasion. I believe right now what we're dealing with is an invasion in the United States. President Trump in 2025 tried to enact that law for a Venezuelan criminal gang, but there was so much legal challenge that came up about how you're violating their due process, how you're saying they're not allowed to have an appeal, because it's literally arrest and deport. There is no appearance before a judge. There is no conversation about due process. It is arrest and deport. Is this the answer? I mean, Chuck Schumer is obviously looking to shut the government down, but is this really the answer, that we actually have to go to either the Insurrection Act or we have to go to the Alien Enemy Act to be able to arrest these people and throw them out of the country?
Shouldn't have to go to that length, because if you're a foreign national in the United States, either illegally or with a visa, it's the government's decision whether or not you get to stay. And if you're an illegal, it shouldn't even be a question. It should see you later, bye. Even if you have a visa, they can repeal that visa whenever they want to, because you don't have a right to be in this country. If you break the rules, they can kick you out. You are a guest. And in my house, if I have a guest in my house, he's only there by my good graces. And the minute I don't want him there anymore, he has to leave. Same thing with people. This is someone in your house. This is trespassing on a national scale. The minute the owner of the property says, I don't want you here, you're trespassing and you should leave. If you don't leave, you should be forced to leave. End of discussion.
Randy?
Yes, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, no, I was like, I'm on mute. No one said it yet, though, so I'm good. No. It makes no sense to me either. If you're here illegally, then it shouldn't be an issue. But again, as you mentioned, Obama and even Bush, and we can go back to Clinton too. I think all of them deported more folks. But did you even hear about it on the news? Barely.
No.
Barely, and no one was getting in the way. And now, apparently, with their Signal app, these people are tracking ICE agents. And if y'all think that's legal by any stretch, or that's a good thing, you have lost your mind. That's people interfering, and that's going to cost more people's lives. And at the end of the day, they're illegal aliens. And if we've got somewhere, okay, we think between what Biden let in and was already there, there's probably 50 million illegal aliens. Then we got somewhere around 50, 60 visas that are overstayed, 50 or 60 million. So that's 100 million illegal folks in this country. Now, that, you know, it reminds me of the ruck I carried during the Q course, right? And this thing could be anywhere from 80 to 120 pounds. In the winter, I called it the heater. Why? Because as long, it didn't matter how cold, this cold temperature, I was out in 10 and 15 degree temperature in the Q course with that thing. As long as I was walking, never got cold. But in the summer, I called that thing the tick, because in the heat, that would suck the life out of you. And that's what we're looking at now. 100 million illegals taxing the system, whether it be medical, whether it be education, you name it, all the way down to all the services to help our own citizens when you're a citizen and have paid taxes. And now we're going to give it to 100 million illegal aliens. And then the crime. Let's talk about the crime too. So if we were able to magically snap our fingers and tomorrow all 100 million move and sent back to wherever they came, what country that is, you have no idea how easy things would get around here. Not only will the dollar rise, things would get cheaper, crime would go down, there'd be less kids in school, your teachers can teach better. It trickles down to every fucking thing.
Agreed. But how do I want to put this without pissing people off?
Oh, don't worry about it now. It's just what we do today, right?
Yeah, just piss them off.
The thing I don't get, the part I don't understand is that when you talk about 100 million people that are illegally in the United States, and U.S. taxpayer money is paying for them to be illegal in the United States. And then you look at an idiot like Mamdani, who is sitting as mayor of New York and saying, well, you know, these are all New Yorkers and they deserve to have all of the rights to the services that exist in the city of New York. And I should not be allowed to arrest them, and this shouldn't be happening, and this shouldn't be happening. I start going, what the fuck are you talking about? I pay my taxes. I want roads. I want schools. I want better police. I want better fire. I want a better government. I want better life for myself. And you're telling me I should pay for all these people that are taking my money, sending it to a foreign country, funding terrorists that hate the United States so they can attack us again? I look at it from you know, like how the U.S. is paying the Taliban, you're paying your enemy there. The U.S. is paying Jolani, you're paying your enemy there. And now inside the United States, you should pay for your enemy inside the United States as well. At some point, someone's got to wake up and go, wait a minute, dude, this is wrong. We should not be doing this. And I'm starting to wonder when it's going to happen. And the reason I'm saying that is because I really don't understand this one. There's this woman, Jennifer Welch, who has officially declared 80 million American Christians to be a cancerous tumor. This is like a war on white people. It's like the war on the white man again. That, you know, if he's a white man, then well, you cannot trust him, and he's an enemy of the state. And I'm gonna play this. It's a minute and 30 seconds. But
so when you think about the Erica Kirks, the Life Church, the Joel Osteen of it all, and their desire to accumulate wealth while hoodwinking their flock into thinking they're super moral. This is a cancer. White evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Oh, your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God, they're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And they want it both ways because in the religion, that duplicity is taught. You can be morally duplicitous. You thrive in cognitive dissonance. And so this is just a massive, massive problem. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that of this cult that I'm talking about, white evangelicals, I think over 80% went and voted triple trumped.
I'm going to put.
Well,
this
the
to
sad
bed.
part is she's white. That's the sad part is, but clearly she's either a satanic worshiper or she doesn't know what Christianity is. But I'm not going to speak on Erica Kirk because I have no idea what that woman's doing, who she is, or what her church is like. I know what Charlie Kirk was like. That was different. What she just described was not Charlie Kirk. When she brings up people like Joel Osteen, may run a Christian church, but it doesn't follow Christian principles. He is not a pastor. He is a crook. That guy's getting filthy rich, and all he does is talk about how God wants you to be able to do whatever you want to do and be happy. And that is not, God. What makes God happy is called obedience. That's what makes God happy. So that being said, everything she said was just a bunch of trash. But again, it's what typical people like her. She may be a lesbian. She may be satanic. I don't know. Could be both. But she's speaking against Christians, but not actually using real Christian churches when she talks about it. So really, and again, it comes down to these people are, they'll say anything and they're allowed to. It goes to the fact that what we've been talking about for a couple of months now, it was a little blurry, so I couldn't see her eyes. I don't know what milligram dosage she's on, but clearly she's on something.
Jeff, I've got a question for you. This has been the argument that has been used against the Muslims for many, many years now, that they have weaponized their religion. Before the Trump administration came to power, it was the same argument then that white males are the problem in the United States. Now it's become Christianity that's the problem. At what point this is again, and I keep coming back to it, this is again them ramping up the rhetoric. So you're saying that the problem is white men, the problem is white Christian evangelicals. Where do they finally draw the line and say, okay, you know what? We're also white. Like Randy said, she's white herself. You're probably a Christian yourself. You're picking off, little people and saying, well, all Christians are wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you see it with, you have you have Muslim extremists, Islamists. Yeah, okay, bad people. Everybody agrees with that. Most Muslims agree with that, which is why they're trying to kick the Muslim Brotherhood the hell out of their countries. And you use that to paint every Muslim as a bad Muslim. Okay, that's not fair. Just like there are corrupt people, violent people in any sector of society. What's bad and what's disingenuous is when you try to take an exception and convince everybody that it's the rule. Yeah, are there corrupt priests or pastors in America? Absolutely. Does that mean every pastor in America is corrupt? Absolutely not. We're a nation built on immigration over the years, and we have a lot of immigrants here who work their asses off. But we have some that are crooks. The ones that are crooks, does that mean that the ones that are here busting their ass are also crooks? No, it doesn't. And if you look, probably the wealthiest subgroup in America, I believe, is either Chinese immigrants or Indian immigrants, because they work their asses off and they value education and they work hard.
And they save money.
And they save money and they invest. Now, do the Somalis fit into that category? Hell no. They are here to scam the system. And you can call a spade in this case, saying, not all Somalis are going to be like that, but they sure as hell have a high propensity of it. When you have 80% of your immigrant community on welfare, even 10 years after they've been here, that's not the immigrants I want. And you need to kick them the hell out.
Yep.
But yeah, Joel Osteen have no respect for that guy whatsoever. But is he a typical Christian pastor? Hell no. Most of them you'll never notice because they just live their lives. They look like anybody else. The ones that accumulate wealth are the ones you notice because they're on TV saying, send me more money. And they are crooks. They're the televangelist types. And, you look at them, you recognize them for what they are, and you avoid them. And you just don't send them anything. But, but they're trying to say every Christian, you find the worst Christian in the world and you say all Christians are like that. Now, that's like saying every Muslim in the world is Osama bin Laden. No, that's not true either.
Not true either.
I know and have known plenty of great down-to-earth Muslims. I've had Muslims that worked for me. I've had Muslims I worked with and worked for. Never had that problem.
Yeah. But it's almost, and again, because we're talking about how they're ramping up the rhetoric, you're targeting groups now. First you targeted the Muslims. Now you're targeting. Then you start targeting the white man. Now you're targeting white Christians. You keep moving that goal line. You keep moving that goal line as to who we can blame for what and who we can blame for what. And what I find hilarious is that this is one of the examples of the Antifa.
My name is Kyle. I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They fucked up. Okay, go watch my other videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay, not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. I am talking specifically to my fucking followers. This is everything I have fucking talked about, and this is exactly what I said was going to happen. This is exactly what I said was going to fucking come when we didn't fucking go and march on fucking Whipple with guns. Sorry, but welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you fucking protected from literal fucking Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity.
I can't watch more of that.
He got my watch up. I'm going to tell you, you know, when you're coming, you'll probably know this, but when you're coming at somebody with your gun, like if we showed up, but this guy took his challenge, you know where you're going to shoot him? Right in the mouth, because his mouth is getting here doing this. That's all you're going to focus on. That's exactly where the bullet's going to go.
Yeah, but here's the fun part. Check this out. This is the same guy.
Yeah, it is.
I do this all year, all the time. I'm out and about like this. I do it for me all year.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know about you. I'm intimidated.
Yep, I'm a fucking blue collar.
And then another thing is, hey, dude, you don't tell him where to come find you, buddy.
He's he's a poser. They're all.
He definitely is. He definitely is.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
This guy is supposed
railing against white privilege and all this stuff. There was one in Australia, some guy on a bicycle stopped and just cursed out this family in the park. You know, man, I think he's a husband, wife, and a couple of kids, and saying they were all evil and they need to be wiped out from the earth because they were white. And he was white. He's like, well, if you think all whites need to be wiped out, why don't you start with yourself? Do us all a favor and self-delete. You know, kill yourself.
No, but this is what I find funny. I mean, I'm this guy's name is Kyle Wagner. He is supposedly the Antifa general for Minnesota.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
that's important now.
In the first video, he's wearing a bulletproof vest. He's got a bulletproof vest on, all badass and fuck this. And you need to come out on the streets with your weapons and Second Amendment. And then in the second video, you're a cross-dresser. I mean, this is
that dress may have been made out of Kevlar.
That's his John Wick dress he's got there, buddy. It stops.
That's right. It's a ballistic dress.
Oh man.
This is where I've got the problem. On one side, you've got the Democrats saying that we're not ramping up the rhetoric. And on the other side, you've got these monkeys that are talking like this. The only thing that's going to stop it is Second Amendment. We need to come armed and we come do this. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, on what side do you figure that you're not ramping up the rhetoric? Because it makes no sense to me.
Well, they pretend like we don't know, like for the last 50 years, the Democrats have been telling us we don't need guns. We need to get rid of them. We don't need to have a Second Amendment. We don't need that. Now, all of a sudden, we need a Second Amendment.
Yeah. It's the only thing that's going to stop this is the Second Amendment. I mean, come on.
Good luck with that.
Then we've got our ex president who is questionable in his own right as whether he was American or not. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama have slammed ICE in the wake of the recent shootings in Minneapolis, arguing that federal immigration agents in Minnesota are using tactics that intimidate and endanger residents. What bugged me more than anything else was this, that every American should support and draw inspiration from Minneapolis to hold the government accountable. If this had happened during the Obama administration, do you think?
Well,
Barack
it wouldn't have, but okay, hypothetically.
Well, let's turn the other way. Let's say the Republicans decided that we're going to fight for our Second Amendment rights. We're going to come out on the streets. We're going to protest. We're going to burn stuff. We're going to behave like Democrats. Do you think Obama would have taken, a soft glove to the Republicans, or would he have been more violent in handling this?
Me or Jeff? Me? Well, we'll probably both.
Let's start with you, Rand.
Oh, I think it's fairly obvious what Obama would have done, right? I mean, we look at, we go through the amount of generals that he got rid of in the military because they didn't agree with them, right? He is the one who has weaponized the FBI and probably the CIA to some degree more than probably anybody else, certainly in my lifetime, or that was visible as far as I can see. This guy weaponized the government more than anybody else. They went after Martha Stewart. Now, for some tiny little bit of insider trading, we've got a guy that quit MIT and developed an app just so he could track where Pelosi's tradings are. And that is an app today that a legitimate app you can get. And if you want to make money on you get this app, and apparently it can track anybody's, but he built it so that he could follow Pelosi's, because apparently last year she did better than all the hedge funds put together.
Yep.
So,
and that's a really interesting point you bring up, because you went after Martha Stewart for a little bit of insider trading, but Nancy Pelosi hasn't been touched, nor has her husband been touched.
And it's because Obama did it. It's because Obama did it. And we look at all the other stuff that he coined terms like white privilege. What were there's 2 or 3 other terms that he coined during his time. And then he definitely, Obama will go down, obviously, as the first black president of the United States. But more than that, he'll go down with the guy that missed the biggest opportunity he ever had in his life because he was part of an evil plan. We were already, the race relations had moved along quite. Were they perfect? No, obviously not. They're never going to be. But they were so much better than they are today when that man took office. And I saw a picture the other day of him, Michelle, and Biden, and it said the 3 men that brought back the racial stoke into America, and they have. So if anybody thinks that he wouldn't go after it, that he would have absolutely used every power in the federal government to crush, and that includes if it had to go out and shoot a couple of folks dead, and no one would have said a thing about it because Obama did it. The media just would have said, oh, great job, it needed to get done, and it happened. And that is our problem, because now they will go along with everything any Democrat in office says, but any Republican in office, now all of a sudden it's got to be resistance. And the resistance doesn't matter if what the Republican's doing is better for America or not. It's just he's doing it, period. Yeah. And as we know now, President Trump is trying to put back America on on the rightful plane, and they are fighting it tooth and nail because they don't care about America, folks. They're the people I've been warning you about. They're the people that hate this country. Again, I don't go with left and right. I still say that because it's a habit. But the reality is it's not left and right to me anymore. It's 2 sides. It's the side that hates this country, wants to strip it of every right we have and fundamentally change it forever, opposed to the rest of us who love this country and want to keep the fabric the way it is. Those are the 2 sides. There is no other side. And that lends to this whole thing. If Obama was in charge, he would have crushed every bit of that with whatever powers he had to be, and probably would have made some up too.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think, Obama, he probably would have called in the military to wipe out anybody who combated him on this level. There was nothing even close to this during his term. And then, of course, we all know the reason why. It's because all the people who do this are on the left. And Obama was on the left. It's just like, the brown shirts didn't attack Nazis in Germany in the 30s because they were the Nazis. And Obama's people are the ones doing this. The Democrats people are the ones doing this. BLM, 99%, Democrats left. And that they are, for all their complaining about white privilege and white nationalism and all this stuff, they are just hands down the most violent ones.
Yeah.
You don't see riots in favor of ICE or riots to arrest illegals. You only see riots to protect them. And protect them is a bad word. It's to keep I shouldn't even say protect them. It's to support the criminal element. And that's what they're doing, either in the illegals or in the corruption in Minnesota.
Yeah. I just want to say one other thing is, what we can thank Obama for is what Jeff just mentioned, BLM, right?
Yep.
And Antifa. Now, Antifa started farther back, but the version we're seeing in America today and what we've seen since President Trump became his first term, Antifa, BLM, all those networks, the 28 states that erupted after George Floyd, that is Obama's network. He's the one that's built this, put it together. It's still operating today. It went through the Biden years. We can thank him for ISIS. Him and Hillary armed and planned and gave ISIS to us.
Don't forget Benghazi.
That's right. And Benghazi. All that plays in together. But the fact is, they helped start ISIS, folks. It didn't just grow up out of nowhere out there in Iraq. They did this. And that's what you have to be thankful for Obama for. And they can, when they put out shit like this letter, again, it just shows me we're not, and they're not the only ones, because I saw somebody in the very beginning said, well, Bush and Cheney aren't running things anymore, so it should come out differently. That's not necessarily true, folks. Those two families are part of the problem. They are part of the powers to be that are running this show. And Obama's in there, so is Clinton. We only had a Republican president with Trump. And I would bet, and since we haven't had a real Republican president before Trump, we'd have to go back to Reagan. And I don't know who we'd have to go back to before him. But I know the two Bushes were just pretend Republicans.
Yeah.
That's really all they were.
That was deep state.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
You
right.
forgot one thing, Randy. You forgot all the money and the nuclear deal that Obama did with Iran.
The pallets of the $1 billion in cash on a pallet.
Yep.
Jeez.
You forgot that one.
Hey,
because Iran is so much stronger today.
Can one stack just fall off for me? I mean, it's a whole pallet full of cash. You wouldn't even notice.
What bugs me is that you don't have that much respect for your own veterans as you do for foreign countries that want to destroy your country. That's the part that bugs me, is that all of these guys went to war to defend the United States of America in foreign soil. They have been injured. They have had mental trauma. You don't give them the that much benefit as you give these illegals that are sitting in your country. They're the same illegals that these guys went to go fight against. And you allow them to sit there, take taxpayer money that should be paid to your veterans instead. And I go, how is that? How are you representing the United States? The people that defended your country are the people that are being shit on first. And the people that have stolen from your country are the ones being elevated and said, oh, no, we need to protect you. Veterans are sleeping on the street today. Veterans are sleeping on the street today because they're not being taken care of by the country that they went and defended. People need to stop and think about that for a second. You're defending people who are in your country illegally, but you give one piece of shit for the people that defended your country, that you still have freedom because of them. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can how you can make that argument that I need to protect these people and I don't need to take care of the people that gave me this freedom. And that's the part that bugs me, because I know how many soldiers have been lost limbs. Randy has been injured. I know how many people have been morally injured. I know how many people have got PTSD. The Veterans Administration does not have the money to take care of these people. Why? Because you're paying for these bastards who don't belong in your country and stealing from your country, and they're allowed to stay. And you've got the Democrats going up and standing up and fighting for them. I don't understand. That's where I get stuck.
Well, I do the same thing. We got a lot of veterans on the street, and I'm not going to sit here and bash the VA, but everybody knows there's serious issues with the VA, and there has been for quite some time, and it's became very stale. And then we look at the old guy that got shot last time was a nurse in the VA. That guy probably should have never been serving veterans. Looking at what his online presence looks like, he had no business. But the point to that is, then these Democrats wanted the government health care, right? When the only government health care we know of right now is the VA, and like less than 3% of the people in this nation have served, and that's who the VA serves, and they can't do that. So now you want to throw the other 97% on government too. Yeah, it's not going to happen, folks. And that's, I look at, I have Medicare right now, right? And it's crap. It's crap insurance. And I was on an ambulance in the 80s and 90s, and Medicare back then was a very good insurance. It really was. Even though it was a government insurance, Medicare was good and strong. It paid its bills. I could go like this. We'll just take when I got so for people, somebody asked earlier, I was not at SHOT Show last week. I had a kidney stone removed. It was not fun, but at least it's over. But my point to that is, I looked at Medicare and I look at the bill I got even for the one 3 months ago in October, and it's amazing that they will bill one thing, right? And let's just say for the sound wave technology, the machine, they charge $17,000 for. Now, yes, I think that's too much by far, but I don't know what the industry standard is. I don't know what all the other private insurances are paying, but regardless, Medicare approved $5,800, but then only paid about $4,800 or something like that, right? At the end of the day. And so sooner or later, that guy's going to drop out of accepting Medicare. Well, guess what? That's the other thing we've got to thank Obama for, who, by the way, people, has been getting a check every month of life since he put it in place of some sort of residuals from Obamacare, from the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act shredded and ruined insurance. It ruined Medicare. It's ruined all the others. And the government's still paying them subsidies. Why would we, the government, take our taxpayer dollars and pay the insurance companies subsidies? That tells you right there something's fucked up. It should not happen. You think about insurance when we were kids, didn't have, what do you call them? What do you have now? You have all these extra charges, deductibles. There was no such thing as deductibles. And in my opinion, if I'm paying premiums, certainly for a private insurance, I shouldn't have to pay deductibles. And again, it comes down to the Affordable Care Act has eviscerated all the insurance companies. And again, that's what we had to thank Obama for. So that's where all this stuff is coming from. And now it's everything and everywhere we look. That's the sad part about it. It's not just in insurance. It's not just in medical care. It's not just in government. It's in everything and everywhere. And when Jeff was talking about earlier, or maybe it was you, when we talked about, used to, we paid taxes because we wanted the streets kept up. We wanted infrastructure and all this other stuff. Where we went wrong was when they stopped fixing that stuff and we kept electing them. And we should have at some point put them on trial for not doing it and spending taxpayer dollars where they should not be.
Completely agreed. Now, we've talked about how the Democrats ramped up. Go ahead, Jeff.
I want to bail out of here, like right now, or I'm the dead man.
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry, Jeff. I probably talked too much, but we'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Or Wednesday.
All right.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care, man. Bye. All right. So, Randy, you and I are going to finish up with this one. We've talked about how the Democrats have ramped up rhetoric, how they keep saying, well, it's not us pushing the fire. We're not the ones throwing the logs on the fire. We're the ones trying to put the fire out. But the interesting part is that when we start talking about it, the fire actually started when Cam Higbee infiltrated the Minnesota protest signal chat. And all of a sudden, shit hit the fan. You have people now fleeing the United States going, holy shit, we're fucked. Because all of a sudden, they've been exposed now. And they've been exposed in such a way that now everything they are doing, their names are public. The lieutenant governor of Minnesota is here. The campaign manager for Tim Walz is in there. The sheer number of people that are inside of this group is unbelievable. And the problem I have is this is something like we said earlier. This is something the FBI should have caught. They should have figured this thing out before it happens. And the fact that it was done by a private citizen, I go, okay, wait a minute. If a private citizen is doing this, then what the fuck do we have the FBI for?
Well, you and I both know they have professional assets that no civilian has, period. They can do a lot more looking and digging around than any civilian. So the fact that they didn't uncover the fraud in Minnesota first, the other boy did it, and now this person has to uncover the signal chat, goes back to what I said earlier. Clearly, they're not doing their job at all. I don't know what they're doing. I can't speak to that, but clearly they're not doing their job, or they would have caught this stuff a long time ago. We don't know how long this Somali thing's been going, right? All we know is that Obama brought a bunch in. Then he got, it wasn't AOC, it's Ethan Omar, right? Got elected to that district. And now, it went from there. So now we have to assume all these Somalians come in, no matter what state they're in, they're probably doing the same thing. And how many, again, we don't even see any real journalism, do we? Because now that the story broke, if the journalists were doing their job, we'd know exactly how many fake daycares are out there. Exactly how much money has went. If the FBI was doing their job, it wouldn't have got this far. They would have discovered it after maybe the first 2 or 3 fake daycares, not probably hundreds now. We're talking $18 billion. That's a hell of a lot of child care.
That's a lot of daycares. That's a lot of daycares.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard that the DC officer that shot Ashley Babbitt, right, is getting paid for the same thing.
Yeah, he is.
For
he is. That is.
And that's in a whole nother state. So you got to ask yourself, where else is this happening? And again, if the FBI was doing their job, or even any journalist was doing their job, they would be uncovering more and more right now. But the fact they're not is another thing that's very concerning, because you got to ask yourself, why is that? They're not doing it. Why is that? What are they not telling us? And more scary, what's coming?
Yeah.
Because it's something.
This is where, and I'm going to put the link into the chat so everyone can see it. Insurrection Barbie did a full deep dive into what's going on inside these protests. And this is where we start to understand literally how big this really is. The guy running the show is a guy named Neville Roy Singham. He's based in Hong Kong or Singapore, I can't remember. $275 million he has pumped into leftist organizations. Those leftist organizations are coordinating with the IRGC and the Iranian state media to mobilize protests using communist revolutionary tactics against American law enforcement and foreign policy. This is not a domestic activism issue. This is a foreign influence operation. This is literally a regime change operation being funded by the Chinese and by the Iranians through their own guy. I mean, the guy, this Neville Roy Singham, he has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. I don't understand what the hell the FBI is doing, and I'm beating on the FBI for a reason. You're responsible for domestic policing. The CIA is not.
That's right.
DNI is not. And Kash Patel, and I keep having to beat on Kash, he wants to say that he is the most qualified person to run law enforcement. we're seeing exactly how qualified you are when this shit's going on.
Well, we see Don Bongino left, and he hasn't said a word, has he? That's because,
Nope.
believe me, folks, they had him sign his life away. He utters a word, he's done. He's done, and so is his family. But it's very telling that he left. Regardless if he tells us why, regardless if we ever get the reason, it's very telling that Don Bongino left and said, I'm out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't know what the FBI is doing. We do know that Patel is not the most qualified person, or he's just choosing to not do his job, or again, he's complicit because someone has got to him and he's compromised. There's no other explanation, because you're right. They are the federal law enforcement of the United States for domestic issues, and he hasn't done a damn thing. No one's been held accountable, including the whole Cook thing, the assassination attempts, nothing. January 6th, you look at all this stuff that just rolled out, what's going on in Minnesota, what's going on in California. But again, it goes back to, we talked about this here a couple of months, and we've talked about it several times. If they were doing their job, we would know. Now, I know Critical Chris is gone. Sorry, buddy. But the reality, because he talked about, what is this paid protester thing? Trust me, there's a whole system out there and a whole slew of folks that they're paying. And it's the Democrats. This is why they don't want the fraud to discover, because they were funding PBS. They're funding The View. They're funding all these other leftist winger nut jobs that are media outlets that are pumping their mission, their message out. We could go back to Enron. I bet they were paying off the Democrats, because then we look at, I can't remember his name, but remember there was a kid that here just a few years ago, and I'm not talking about 10, 4 or 5, that got busted because he had the fake crypto, right?
Yep.
And remember, now they finally put him in prison, but they should have done it a lot sooner. And the only reason, because even the Federal Reserve came out and said this guy and his money, his product was legitimate. You know why he did that, folks? Because the left, the douchebags, own the Fed. And the Fed knew that money was going to come back to the Democrats. That's why they didn't bust the guy when they should have. Bernie Madoff. You look at those kind of things happened and no one discovered it. It's because again, I'm with Jeff. I guarantee you there's probably a lot of ground pounders that work in the FBI that are good folks, but the leadership is absolute trash and it's absolute compromised. And without the leadership, the people on the ground can't do their job, period. And so, because the leadership is going to determine which investigations get killed, which ones go through, and all that other stuff. But again, I've been saying it all along, and it's even with the jihadists. If the CIA, all these federal agencies were doing what they're trained to do and what their job actually is, and Khalid, you can vouch for me. We know what we're doing. We're very, very good at this. So the fact that all this is happening is because they're allowing it to. And
they're allowing it to.
There's so many that are still involved, and it's Republicans too. It's the uniparty up there, folks. If all of them weren't complicit, none of this would be happening. I saw a meme a while back, and it's the truth. And what is it, 535, whatever's on the Hill, right? All of them, including the president, the executive branch, the Supreme Court, and all of Congress and the House, and all that. If every one of them didn't want this to happen, it wouldn't be happening. Whatever happens in this country is because they wanted to and they allowed it. That is the only answer. That is it.
I mean, I come back to the concept that you have not been able to stop human trafficking in the United States at all. No matter how much you beat that drum and say we are not going to allow trafficking anymore. You still have human trafficking. You still have children that are missing. I mean, Kash Patel likes to put on his windbreaker and say, we found this many children. We found this and we did. There are millions of kids that are being molested. There are millions of kids that are being sold on a daily basis. How are they able to do that without the FBI being able to stop it? And I come back to 9/11 2.0 when Joe Kent put out the alert. Kash Patel told local police his supervisory special agents in fusion centers that tell everyone it's clickbait. It's not real. It's not real. Who the fuck are you working for?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Well, it's just
that's
trash.
what I come back to. Is it? What are you
Well,
doing? I mean,
you can't. It goes to simple. It goes to simple math, doesn't it? You can't let all those people. Certainly, the amount of bad people and criminals and terrorists, known terrorists with known terrorist ties, we let thousands of them in. And as we go back to the 200 SIAs, 200,000 folks,
Yep.
These are not good people. You can't just allow them in here and think nothing's going to happen. Believe me, they didn't come here to hang out and enjoy the American experiment. That's not why they're here. They're not here to assimilate. They're not here to have a good life. They're here to bring what they came to bring, and that is what they see as our payback and their due justice.
Yep. But we go back to. I mean, I call these guys that are actually finding this information and studying these. These are war fighters. These are digital war fighters for America. You've got Cam Higbee. You've got Nick Shirley, you've got Insurrection Barbie, and then you have my favorite, Data Republican. Yeah. Data Republican has gone through that Signal chat and picked off every single name, and I'm putting the link into the chat. You can download the 9,000 that she's identified so far of people that have donated to these protests, that are backing these protests. And the digital war fighters, Nick Sorter, James O'Keefe, Andy Nego, Data Republican, Insurrection Barbie, Cam Higsby, 0 Hour. These are all guys. These are all people that literally put their lives at risk to find this information and put it out in front of the American people. Data Republican has gotten to 9,000. Yesterday it was 4,000. Today it's 9,000. And she's still working on building that list and identifying people. When you look, we've downloaded the file. It's a 20 megabyte file right now. And when you look at that file and start going through names and going, holy fuck, who is involved in this and how are they operating? They have manuals, Randy. They have manuals on how to protest, how to create an insurrection inside the United States, how to create an insurgency inside the United States. This level of activity is going on, and the FBI is asleep. Local law enforcement is asleep. No one's doing anything to stop it. And you go, wait a minute. You all have to be eating from the same plate. Because if you're not eating from the same plate, you'd be doing your fucking jobs.
Well, there's no other explanation, is there? I mean,
no,
because as I was saying a while ago, and we've mentioned it many times on these paid protesters and all these protests, all that money's moving around somehow. The FBI can figure that out. They have the tools and the assets to go into the financial sector and find all that. So there's no doubt if they were doing their job and they really wanted to, a lot of these people would already be cleaned up because there are paid protesters. Yep. You can follow the money. And the fact that they're not tells us all we need to know. It means they're not going to do their job for whatever reason. And it's because the powers to be, again, as I always talk about, the ones up at the top that are making all this happen, they want it to be, and they have paid everybody else well enough or have enough dirt on them that they have stymied them. Somebody said it perfectly back here. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it real quick so we don't spend too much time. That's right. Educate 9615. Hillary was taken down by America going through the front door. So the Democratic Party is going through the back door with billions of dollars to create hate and destruction. And that's exactly what we've watched ever since. But again, it all comes down to Obama's network. Hillary's part of that, but Obama is the bigger piece. And it's his network that's running all this. And there were plenty of people in the FBI and the CIA that were more than willing to do Obama's bidding, and they believe what he believes. They're on his side. That's right. They willfully did that, knowing how big of a deal that is, and that kind of treason comes with a If there's no prison sentence when it's that high treason, folks, for people in those positions, if you're found guilty, there is only one sentence and there is no prison sentence.
Yep.
And so that is what we're talking about. They knew that when they did it, but they went ahead and did it anyway. Why? Because so many people are involved that just like this, nothing has been done about it. Because then they say, oh, let's take the whole system down. Well, take it down.
Yeah.
Then. Take it down.
Yeah,
we
take
will
it
survive.
down.
We will survive.
It's like what they say with the Epstein files. It's like what they say with the Epstein files,
right.
that if we release the Epstein files, Hollywood's going to collapse, and the music industry is going to collapse, and the sports industry is going to collapse. Let it collapse.
We'll find
build
other
it back
people.
up.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other people to take those jobs.
Yep. And my issue, and again, I come back to Pam Bondi, Russiagate. You supposedly have so much proof on Russiagate, but you haven't arrested anyone. You haven't convicted anyone.
Nothing.
And Trump has completed 1 year in office, and nothing has happened.
Nothing. So everybody like me, we're just still hoping, okay, now they've put all the pieces together and it's so large, it's taken this long, but somehow this year we're going to start seeing some accountability. You know, until I heard, it was either you or Jeff that said, well, if you want ICE out of Minnesota, then, you know, what was it? Either, you know, give us the criminals, give us the voter list. Yeah, no, that's not acceptable. Those are not acceptable terms. And any idiot, I don't care if it was President Trump or whoever blessed off on that. No, sorry, pal.
Yeah.
That doesn't cut the mustard. That's not going to make us happy. That is not what needs to be done. What needs to be done is first, they all need to be put on trial. Then get all the rest of the criminals out also. Then we can go after the fraud. But to offer that, nope. That's not negotiation.
That's not a negotiation. No.
No.
And this is where my problem comes in. When you listen to Kash Patel talking on Benny Johnson's show, this is after Cam Hicks penetrated the signal chat.
Okay, so this is breaking news. So you and the FBI and perhaps other intelligence agencies are fully aware of this coordinated effort to attack federal law enforcement, to impede them and potentially insurrect. And so there is now an open investigation into these chats and into this coordinated network.
Yeah,
some of them are fleeing. Some of them are very scared now. You can see their chats. They're very, very worried now that they have been exposed.
Well, they should be. If they broke the law, you should be worried. It's that simple. If you didn't break the law, there's really nothing to worry about on that front. And so, we're going to continue, as I've said from day one, we will protect law enforcement. We will make sure they have the security and safety to do their jobs. We will also ensure that civilians have the ultimate protection of the First and Second Amendment. But it is my job to adjudicate the difference when there is a breaking of federal statute or state law in the furtherance of a crime or violence against law enforcement officers. And that's when we step in.
Okay, so this.
Now, Randy, where the fuck was Kash Patel before all of this came out?
I don't know how he could still sit there with a straight face and say all that. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, I don't know how we didn't catch him. Of course, he's not going to say that. But I look into his eyes, and he's lying. He's lying. And he's got lying. He's just got too little bit of a smug and kind of a smirk. This is a very serious matter. And you just got made look like a fool. And you're going to sit there with your little turtle fucking neck and head and try to sit there and act with this little smirk. Oh, we're going to make sure law enforcement is safe and they can do their job. Okay. Well, what about the rest of it, pal? What about all the fraud? How come you didn't discover the fraud? Where's the FBI at? Yeah. Because you have far more assets than old boy did, and including the signal chat. Why was that not you?
Yeah.
But we're not going to get those explanations because he just gave a shitty politician's answer to that question.
Well, I hate to bring it up this way, but I mean, Kash Patel, he arrested people in Detroit and said there was an ISIS plot around Halloween. We heard nothing about that.
That was a joke. That's right.
Well, let's go through it. Let's go through it step by step. You made those arrests and said, look, they were on our radar and we arrested them before they could do anything. You arrested a group of 8 in Los Angeles that were also involved in an ISIS plot, and we've heard nothing about what happened to them either. you are now investigating Antifa and all this money that's going in, and you're talking about protecting law enforcement, but Antifa was declared a terrorist organization by Donald Trump almost a month and a half ago when they had that huge roundtable when Trump signed the document saying Antifa is now a domestic terror organization. They started investigating through the CIA, through the Department of National Intelligence, and started to link it back to foreign countries so they get declared a foreign terrorist organization. Muslim Brotherhood is still operational inside the United States, raising money, sending people to go join Al-Qaeda, sending people to go join ISIS. All we ever hear from the FBI is once the shit hits the fan, oh, they were on our radar. And we're hearing, and literally what Kash Patel said right now was, oh, they were on our radar. But, you know, now that it's been exposed on social media, we need to get our head out of our ass and do something about it.
Well, you know, hang on a second. What is that? I'm just going to bring up something. Well, we look at, you know, I know what I was going to say. So here's the problem. As I was talking about earlier, this is what I believe. This is my opinion, but it's what I've seen over the few years, right? That the reason we're not declaring the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization in this country, full stop, all the way, right? Or why we haven't declared Antifa a domestic terror organization, full stop, because those are both Obama's networks. Those are his people. It's why BLM wasn't designated as and was allowed to operate as a nonprofit and rake in millions of dollars, even from Dr. Pepper and all kinds of corporations that have gotten filthy rich in the United States. They all funded that. And that's why, because they're his people, it's his network, and we haven't thrown him in jail or charged him with a damn thing. And you see the press who even today says, oh, don't wait. When you're out of power, we're going to come and charge you, Trump. But then when somebody starts saying something about Obama or even about, well, we shouldn't charge an ex-president with anything. That's not good. What? And that's what we need to stop listening.
Mar-a-Lago. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you raided Mar-a-Lago. Was that not an ex-president? I mean, Donald Trump had just completed his first term in office, and you went and raided Mar-a-Lago. And when it comes to Obama or Biden, you've got auto pen Biden, and nobody is even talking about how Biden never signed a fucking document while he was president.
That's right.
It was all auto pen or one of his aides signing it.
And that
That's
makes
a
them all
violation
void.
of the law, and nobody's worried about it.
And that makes every one of those void, including that Supreme Court judge. All that is void because it wasn't him and it was a pen that someone else was using. But it was Obama's third term, right? It was his perfect term, right? Because he didn't have to take the heat. But again, little known fact, people, we were paying him millions of dollars all the way through Joe Biden's term, and he listed it as Joe time. That's how he billed the government, Joe time. And we paid him millions of dollars, something like $16 million or something. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's because they're still allowing that guy to run things. He is running the shadow government while Trump is trying to run the real or the legitimate government. And the problem is there's a bigger, stronger force now on the legitimate side, on the shadow government. And that is our biggest issue.
I almost compare it with Afghanistan, where you had the US-led government with Ashraf Ghani or Hamid Karzai, and you had the Taliban running behind them, trying to disrupt the government and trying to cause problems for the US while they were in Afghanistan. Barack Obama is doing the exact same thing in the US. You've got an elected president, Donald Trump, who is trying to get things right, trying to fix things. And here you've got all of these insurgent groups, all of these terrorist groups, and I have no other option but to call them terrorist groups. Antifa is a terrorist group. 5501 is a terrorist group. The IRGC is a terrorist group, and all of the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist group, and you're allowing them to operate because they've infiltrated so well during the Obama term and during the Biden term into the State Department, into the Department of Justice, that nobody can do a goddamn thing to stop it. And when America collapses, because we're and I keep saying this, we are on the bleeding edge. We can feel the blood dripping from our feet because we're right there when it comes to civil war. And all it's going to take is one push, and the U.S. will go into a complete civil war against each other. Especially the way the Democrats are ramping up the rhetoric, saying, bring weapons, ramp it up, start fighting ICE. We are seeing Nazi Germany. Do you know what happened in Nazi Germany as compared to what's happening in the U.S. right now?
Well, I said that.
I wonder who's writing the history book, or whose history book are you reading when you're saying what's happening in the U.S. right now is like what happened in Nazi Germany?
Well, I said that 2 weeks ago, right after Good was shot, and then they first started. Now we start seeing these people, including the guy you just played a little while back, the knucklehead that was screaming so much.
Yep.
Oh, the general for Antifa, him. They started talking about Second Amendment and picking up guns, and now we need to go fight ICE. I said it then. Okay, this is the next elevation. This is where they bring it to a head, where there's actually something, some sort of skirmish that kicks off, because of now these people are going to start showing up armed. Whether they can use the weapons or not really doesn't matter. It will start an altercation that could start a civil war. It's no different than what I was talking about earlier with the way that your area, that entire region has been destabilized. If we're not careful, that could unravel into a civil war, no different than Ukraine could too. I mean, we're cooking up a lot of really bad stuff here. And again, it comes down to Obama and his network and that shadow government that's making all this happen while everybody wishes and hopes that Trump's going to overcome it. But until we start arresting folks and holding them accountable, nothing is going to stop. And that includes the press. Because if you're a journalist and you lie on TV to further an objective, right, or another, then that is not journalism. And I think you could be charged at that point because you're helping further an agenda instead of presenting the news. There is a
incitement,
difference.
Randy.
That's right.
It's incitement. It's incitement of
correct.
violence. I mean, when you talk like Jasmine Crockett was talking, I mean, you are inciting violence. That's exactly what you're doing.
Exactly.
You are not behaving like a respected, honorable member of Congress. You are saying, pick up a weapon. These are Nazis. Let's go fight them. That's not going to solve the problem. And we're going to close tonight with Tom Homan, because President Trump has now sent Tom Homan to Minnesota to oversee the ICE operations. Tom Homan is not someone who takes anyone's shit. That is something people need to understand. He does not take people's shit. And when Tom Homan goes into an area and says, I'm going to clean it up, he's going to clean it up. And I'm going to play his video. He lays it out pretty simple.
Women are being raped. How many children are dying making that journey? 6% decline. 96% less people are coming. How many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this country every day? How many known suspected terrorists aren't just walking across that border? President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month. Hard stop. That's just a stone cold fact. I'm just proud to be a part of this. I work with Steve Miller every day. Steve Miller is one of the most brilliant people I've met in my entire life. President, 6% decline, 96%.
You got to love Tom Homan. You have to love Tom Homan.
Well, I hope he can do something, but really, until we arrest some of the folks that are responsible, because I don't think Waltz was, right? Walls. But I think his lieutenant governor is in that chat, isn't he, on the Signal?
Yep.
She is in that chat inciting. So, then let's go back to when the two lawmakers were shot, right? When they didn't vote the way that Walz wanted them to. One of them, her and her husband died. I think the other two, the husband and wife, survived. But the reality is that was one of Waltz's own people that went and shot them. And he told us that Waltz put him up to it. But again, nothing happened.
Nothing.
So
happened.
We need to go in there and arrest those folks because they are committing crimes and they are committing treason. It doesn't matter what office they hold. Again, you'll hear them all, including, and I can't wait, and like the rest of us, until the Clintons are actually held accountable, because it just seems like all they have to do is say, we're not going to show up, and nothing will be done. But if they are ever held accountable, I'm going to do a jig, because every time I hear that woman yell with her fat mouth, no one is above the law, it makes me want to slit her throat, because she is the very person we're talking about. One of them anyway. There's many of them up there. But you got to realize, you know, we all heard her say it too. So I'm like, again, let's take the whole thing down. If it's going to take the whole thing down, let's start making arrests. But the same thing with Hillary. If Hillary can take all of Washington, D.C. with her, let's pull the plug. Let's arrest her, let her start singing like a canary, and then close the lid on all of them. That's what needs to happen. And unfortunately, as you know, Clete, until we actually do this and hold people accountable, nothing's going to change. It's going to keep sliding right on out, and we will find ourselves in a worse situation. But until we actually do something about it, nothing will change.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Completely agreed. The problem we've got right now, and this is we're going to wrap up. We've went half hour over our normal time. But
sorry, folks.
The reason no, Randy, we shouldn't apologize, because this is information that our audience needs. They're not hearing it from mainstream media. They're not hearing it from the right people. We go into such detail to explain this stuff to you, so you understand exactly what's happening to the country we love. When you allow this shit to go on, and you allow this shit to become something like the new normal, it just gets worse from here on. It started off with white men, now it's white Christians. You're going to slowly move forward and forward and forward, and all of a sudden, well, you know, white people just shouldn't exist at all. That's what this is going to get to.
Oh, it is.
We need to put a stop to this. We literally stop to this. And the reason we talk at such length, the reason we go to such detail, the reason Randy, Chris, and my blood pressure go up through the roof very quickly, is because this pisses us off. We love the America. That is our country. Even if I'm abroad right now, I grew up in the U.S. I have family in the U.S. My parents are in the U.S. It's not something that I go, well, I'm not an American, so it doesn't matter to me anymore. That's not the case. I still have family there. I still go back and forth. I don't want to see a destruction of the United States of America. But the Democratic Party and elements of the Republican Party have decided, well, because I've got Trump derangement syndrome, I'm going to allow this to happen.
And they're pumping so much money in my pocket, it's making me rich. So I'm just going to go along with it.
Well, Randy, you brought up Renee Good. Her wife, after Renee Good was shot, turned over $1.5 million in donations. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, you know what really ticks me off is because, you know, they will, just like, what is it, GoFundMe will allow that. But you remember when they raised money for the Canadian truckers, and they raised money for Kyle Rittenhouse, they nixed all that stuff and they didn't give them the money. They sent it back. So those people should be held accountable too, because you can't do that. And I don't care what our laws are, what the buzz, and you did it in business. Well, this is how we teach you a lesson. And this is how we send that message out. If this is how you want to operate in this country, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, if you want to come in and do business right and treat everybody equally and spread it across through everybody on both sides of the aisle and everything else, great. Then we want you in here. But if not, we don't need you.
Yeah, we don't need you. We don't need you. With that, we're going to close off before our blood pressure goes through the roof. Randy and I have been quite hostile tonight with these questions. Chris will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. our normal time with the next episode in the Long War series. We'll have a special guest with us. Daniel Chaffin will be with Chris tomorrow night. I'll be on the show as well. If you're not a Guardian, a Guardian subscriber, please get your subscription. Shit is going very, very wrong. You need to get the information that we're putting out, and you need access to the information we're giving you, because as you can see, the bullshit meter is gone with us. We don't bother anymore. Politically correct, we don't care. We will tell you what you need to know, whether it offends you, whether you don't like our tone. That's your own concern. But we love the country we come from. We don't want to see it destroyed by a bunch of crazy people that are blue hairs and 1,000-mile stare animals.
Milligram stairs.
Yeah, we cannot let this happen, and we call on every patriot to start calling your congressman, start demanding that these things stop before the American culture and the fabric of the United States is destroyed. So with all of that, between now and tomorrow night when Chris comes back, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And God bless America.
God bless America.
And enjoy the video.
Yep. See you guys Wednesday.
Right now, we are in the midst of a supernatural war. This is a war between light and darkness. It's a war between good and evil. It's a war between Christ and Antichrist, with demonic forces, highly organized, totally ruthless, committed to destroying you.
Of joy. In nothing be not terrified by your adversary. In nothing be not terrified by your adversary. The Bible says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. The truth is not some thing. The truth is someone. That someone is Jesus Christ. And when you know him, you have the truth, and you walk in the truth, and you joy in the truth, and you rejoice with truth that is unspeakable and unshakable, because Christ is the solid rock, the cornerstone, precious and elect in Zion. He's not trying to be truth. He is the truth. I want to put on the whole armor of God and come out fighting with fresh fire, that I can be counted worthy to be numbered among the New Testament saints.